Is everything set up now for the Eureka group?
I think so. They're not, I sent her the link, but it should be fine by now because she's not, you know, it's not showing up on the cameras.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that it's fine because Jess didn't say anything.
You want to text her just to be sure?
Yeah, I can have Will text her. Finger. To see if they're disabled.
About 30 more seconds and I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Associated Colleges of Illinois' pre-Thanksgiving Work and Life Skills Bootcamp. I'm Mick Weltman. I'm the Executive Director of Associated Colleges of Illinois. ACI, Associated Colleges of Illinois, is a consortium of 26 smaller private liberal arts-based colleges and universities throughout Illinois. All the colleges and universities you attend are ACI members. ACI's work and life skills boot camps seek to deliver a high quality career development resources and financial literacy for all students at ACI colleges and universities, but especially low-income first-generation degree seekers and students of color who may need extra help building the schools and professional networks need to launch successful careers. We hope today's program delivers on that promise and that you'll find it to be a productive use of your day. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jamel Wright, President of Eureka College and President of Associated Colleges of Illinois.
Thank you, Mick, and good morning to everyone. As Mick said, I join him in saying on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Associated Colleges of Illinois, I welcome you all to what absolutely promises to be an informative and worthwhile opportunity to better position and prepare you for future success. Today, you all will hear a lot of information that will help you in providing tools to better utilize your transferable skills, to promote yourself, to prioritize your financial health, to navigate other challenges you're likely to face, including, of course, the career exploration and employment in the midst of the pandemic that we find ourselves in today. Before I go any further, I'd like to thank Emmanuel Indifor with Upkey. He'll be presenting this afternoon on the fundamentals of developing a professional image, as well as James Osowski and Heatherlyn Lewis Heath with PNC Bank, who are presenting on building credit. Their contributions were instrumental to today's bootcamp, so I thank them very much on behalf of ACI. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my own Eureka College students who are joining us today, and to our Dean of Students, Jessica Brown, and one of my distinguished alumni, Lee Anthony Reasonover, both of whom you will be hearing from later today. This is such a pivotal time in so many ways. Now more than ever, it's important that you all understand the importance of your degree from a liberal arts institution, well beyond your content expertise from your chosen academic program or major. The leadership development opportunities and the transferable and essential skills you are acquiring are in high demand like never before. You will flourish and succeed not in spite of your liberal arts educational experience, but because of it. You are learning to be a better communicator, problem solver, critical thinker, team player, and lifelong learner. Your well-rounded college experience is teaching you how to quickly adapt, to rapidly changing technological and increasingly diverse environments. These are fundamental skills you need for today's and future careers and will aid your success no matter how many times you decide to reinvent yourself. The Associated Colleges of Illinois is proud to provide this boot camp and other unique programs to assist your colleges in cultivating those aforementioned skills and to offer financial and other support that helps you to pursue your bachelor's degree. The region in which Eureka College is located provides an example and proof of the importance and need for you to persevere and complete your degree. Just last year, the Peoria Regional Workforce Alliance created a report that shows the 39 most high demand living wage careers between now and the year 2029. And important to note is that 34 of those 39 require a bachelor's degree. This is undoubtedly similar in regions across the country. Educational experiences like yours and programs like the one today will position you to fill these roles. So please stay engaged, stay persistent, stay positive, be confident, and be sure that your dreams are so big they scare you. I'll tell you that I went from being a first generation college student to the first woman and African American president of this 165-year-old college. So I know big and scary firsts can become amazingly humbling opportunities for you to live a fulfilling life and to make a difference in the lives of others. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. And on behalf of ACI, please know that we will always be here to support you and we wish you continued success. Have an amazing day.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. I'm Leslie Millinson, and I am Director of Special Projects for Associated Colleges of Illinois, which means that part of my job description is to organize these work and life skills boot camps. This is the second of these boot camps this year. We had one in September. We have two more planned for later in the year. One is January 29th, and the other is March 25th, or excuse me, March 26th. And each of them is organized around a theme. Today, the theme is who am I, where am I going, and how am I going to get there? And all of the sessions we've planned for today look at various aspects of how you make that decision and how you start your path along to a satisfying and successful career. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our Manager of Operations and Research, Cindy Morales. Cindy will give you a few pointers on using the technology today. She's also going to be part of our alumni panel a little bit later. She holds degrees from 2 ACI colleges. Her bachelor's is from Augustana, and her master's, which she earned just in the last couple of weeks, is from Concordia University, Chicago. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Leslie. So as Leslie mentioned, I also work for ACI. I'm the Manager of Operations and Research over at ACI. This is actually our second webinar, so thank you for joining us. So just a quick little things. One of the most important things is that about 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of each session, we're going to be locking the webinar. And so if you have a session in mind that you want to join in particular, just make sure that you're there at the beginning. And we know some people have classes today or jobs, so that you guys will come and go. But other than that, you guys can just keep your mics muted. You guys can also, there's a chat function where you guys can chat with us, but there's also a Q&A button where those who are watching can actually ask questions through there. So you can ask an individual question and it will show up for us to be able to answer it directly. So we're able to do that. So keep that in mind when the sessions start. And with that being said, I will gladly introduce you guys to our first session. So let me bring this up. So our first session is with Nancy, Dr. Nancy Arneson. She is a professor of English over at North Park University. She teaches a class in Shakespeare and early modern literature, and so she does interdisciplinary writing and research courses. Among her courses, hi Nancy, There's a freshman seminar on Chicago neighborhoods and research seminar entitled Applied Liberal Arts, which the workshop that she's going to be presenting on is based. She holds a BA from the Wheaton College and an MA from North Illinois University, and she has her PhD in Renaissance English Literature from Northwestern University. So the title of the session is How do Academics and Co-Curricular Experiences Translate into Workplace Competencies? So hi Nancy, how are you?
I'm well. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to be here and a little nervous about sharing my screen. So let me
You got this.
let me do that now and
Alrighty.
hope that you all can see what I am hoping to present today.
Looks good, Nancy. I'll let you take it away.
Okay, sounds great. So let me get this technology in motion here and then we can get started. So is that coming through? You're able to see me here? Oh, let's see if I can.
Yes, we can see it.
Take these captions off. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so with that kind of anxiety about technology over, let me start by saying how glad I am to be here, how grateful I am that you are all joining us virtually today. I know that this is the strange new world, right? We all find ourselves in. So we'd much rather be together so that I could see all your faces and that we could interact. But I hope we'll have some time to do that at the end of the presentation. So please, note any questions you have while I'm talking. And, we can, I hope, have some interaction at the end of the presentation. If there's anybody in the audience from North Park, you might recognize the background photo from my first slide, which is our really beautiful campus. But all of us share one thing in common, which is that all of the schools represented today are liberal arts colleges. And so the overarching theme that I'm hoping to address is how to make connections between your liberal arts education, whatever your major, and your work life beyond your education, right? So how to sort of translate the experiences you're having as an undergrad to your future, how to imagine your future, and then how to leverage or make connections between what you're experiencing now as a college student and what you might hope to experience in the future. So that's kind of the big picture. My own starting point for this topic is a very personal one, and that is that although I've always, advised students in a very general way as an English professor for over 30 years now, things became much more personal and intense for me when my own daughter was graduating from college a couple of years ago. So this is Emma. She graduated with a double major in government and French from Lawrence University up in Appleton, Wisconsin. So it's not part of our group, but it's a very similar kind of institution. And so as Emma was entering her junior year, I think, I started thinking much more intensely about, okay, well, what comes next, right? And I had always advised her that, just need to follow your passion, just need to study what you find most engaging, and your future will unfold, but don't be too deliberative about choosing a major that you think will lead to, a certain career. She started actually as an environmental studies major because she'd had a great experience in high school in an environmental studies class, but quickly decided that that wasn't where her heart was, and ended up, as I said, in government and French. But then the question was, what next? Where does this go? And so in my own kind of, mothering of her in that journey, but also always having my professorial hat on, right? You never totally bisect your identity. I quickly realized that the line that I had been giving students for 30 years, which was, oh, you can do anything with a liberal arts degree. While true, I still do believe that, was not enough, right? Was not adequate. And that faculty really need to do more to help students understand how to connect their liberal arts experiences with meaningful work life. And so, again, because I was, very personally invested in Emma's outcomes after Lawrence, I began to do what professors do, which is research and read and, dive deeply into these questions. And so while I'm definitely not a professional or an expert in this field of career services, and I will mention, by the way, later on, that you do have such experts on all of your campuses and that you should, fully avail yourselves of them. But I feel that I did learn quite a bit. And so I kind of hope to share with you today some of the highlights of what I learned from that season of really immersing myself in these questions. So first, though, of course, I have to boast a little bit about Emma, and not just boast, but to use her as sort of an example of somebody who's just a couple years out of a liberal arts, beyond a liberal arts education, and who's, having a wonderful experience, totally not anything she had planned on. And I think in some ways her experience is very instructive. So I just wanted to kind of share her career path so far. And again, if you had asked her in her senior year of college what she would be doing in, what month are we in? I don't even know. It's a Friday. I think I know that. I think we're in November. What she would be doing in November 2020. I am very confident that she would not have said that she would be working for a congressman in Washington, D.C. But that's what she's doing. So how did she get there? Well, right after college, she, well, I guess in the spring of her final semester, she applied for and received an unpaid internship on a congressional campaign in our home district, which is the Illinois 6th. And Sean Casten, who is now our congressman, was trying to unseat a, I think, 6-term congressperson. So it was definitely an uphill battle. He's a Democrat in a Republican district, historically Republican. So it was a very, exciting and challenging time. After about, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks as an unpaid intern, she was offered a paid position on the campaign. And so that became her first paid full-time job, more than full-time, after graduation. And her title was field organizer. She ran one of 5 campaign offices within the district. And it was an experience that I know she would not want to repeat, but it was an invaluable experience. She worked 16, 18-hour days. So, she was salaried, but if she received an hourly wage, it would have been very little money, very intense work, very challenging, but very exciting and very interesting. And she just did amazingly and learned a lot. And her candidate, Sean Casten, won the election. So it was just extremely exciting to be on the ground floor of all of that. After that, she applied for and received a position in the district office. So Congress people have, a DC office, and then they have a home office, sometimes more than one. And so she actually had a couple of jobs. First, she was a staff assistant, and then she became a case manager. And so she spent a year here in the district, living at home, saving all her money for grad school. And then about a year ago now, actually, she was offered a position in DC as the scheduler for the congressman, which means that she manages his day, basically. She gets him to meetings, she gets him to votes, she gets him to flights, she fields all kinds of requests for his time, and etc. So obviously it's been a little challenging in the pandemic, but that has been a learning experience in itself. So it's true that Emma was a government major, but her emphasis was international relations. She was never all that interested in American government, ironically enough. But it wasn't that got her the job, this really great job. In fact, the application for, I think, the case manager job, the qualifications that were listed were intellectual curiosity, excellent writing ability, and something else. But those are all things that liberal arts students do, right? And now actually one of her jobs is coordinating their internship program. And they really emphasize students from all different majors being welcome to apply for that. Okay, so that's the example of Emma, and I will promise not to. I think she might come up one more time in my presentation, but enough about her. So the first lesson that I want to really emphasize and have you kind of ponder is this idea that for liberal arts students, career pathways tend to be nonlinear and often not obvious, right? And so the slide here shows you a beautiful path, which be a little linear, but later in the presentation, I'll show you an example of a student who graduated from North Park about 12 years ago. And you will see her very nonlinear path to the job that she has now, right? And she has ended up in a very satisfying, wonderful job, but she would never, ever have imagined even that such a job existed, let alone that she would be enjoying it or have become qualified for it through a series of other jobs that she followed. So a couple of things follow from this first lesson. Number one, and very importantly, your first job is likely not your last, right? You've already seen from Emma's example, she's had, I think, already 1, 2, 3 different job titles in 2 years since graduation. Not uncommon, right? And definitely a sign of growth, right? So, I sometimes think that we get our ideas of jobs from, the children's books we read growing up. And I think about the Richard Scarry books, and if you remember those, but there's one called Busy Town. And in it, you see the farmer and the letter carrier and the firefighter. And you just get this image of jobs as this very stable identity that people sort of have. You grow up and you become. You become a lawyer, you become a doctor, or you become something. And while it's true for some people, right? Like in my case, I became a professor at age 28, and I'm still a professor. So there are some people for whom that describes their career path. But for the vast majority of people, that's not the story. And so understanding that helps you think differently about what you're looking for in that first job after college. Understanding that you're not looking for your final destination, you're looking for your first step. A second lesson learned is that your eventual career may very well not be directly related to your major. So if you're in a major like engineering or nursing or accounting, then perhaps, likely in fact, you will have a career that's directly connected. But if you're in a major like communications, English, philosophy, history, psychology, sociology, research shows that the chances are overwhelming that your eventual career, that final destination where you will be 12 years out, may very well have no direct connection to your major. But that does not mean that your liberal arts experiences don't inform where you end up, don't prepare you in some critical ways, right? Don't enable your career destination. Quite the opposite. The point, though, is there's not this direct one-to-one correspondence. And then the third thing is that your career destination may well surprise you. So this should be comforting if you are fielding questions, especially those of you that are juniors or seniors and are fielding questions like, from anxious relatives, like, well, what do you want to do? Sometimes it's helpful just to have a narrative, just to kind of, an answer in your pocket to help people, feel satisfied that you have a plan, right? But realistically, you very well may not know what you want to do. And that's very consistent with the reality of the job world, and in particular for liberal arts majors. Okay, so just a few statistics to kind of, reinforce what I'm saying. In a 2013 survey, 93% of employers agreed that critical thinking, communication, and problem-solving skills are more important than an undergraduate candidate's major, right? So think about that one for a moment. I think, again, when we're choosing colleges and there's all this emphasis on what are you going to major in? What are you going to do? And yet here we have an overwhelming percentage of employers saying, it's not so much the major that matters. It's these intellectual skills that you're learning in college. So a 2014 study concludes that just 27% of college graduates are in their final careers, fields closely related to their major. And then a more recent study shows evidence, and this is with a large pool of students studied, that graduates tend to move multiple times, and often their job changes take them into totally different fields. So they might start out in public relations and then move into, management in some other totally different field. So this graphic is from a study that was done, 5 or 6 years ago by a math professor at Williams College, which is a liberal arts college on the East Coast. And he studied data from about 15,000 graduates of Williams College in order to understand where they landed, what fields they landed in, not so much what jobs, but just what general fields. And what's interesting about these two slides, which I know you can't read the fine print, is how sort of symmetrical they are, how similar they are, even though they're showing different things. So let me explain. The slide that's on my left, I guess that's your left, the one under Williams College, let's put it that way, shows the career destinations of students who majored in history. And so on the left side of the circle, those categories are all different majors, and the right side are all different career destinations. And so you can see that history majors really disperse and really go into a very wide range of careers. The thickest line is law, but even that is not all that thick, right? On the other side, the other diagram shows the flip side. It shows where majors came from into banking and finance. So the starting point for these for this diagram is the category banking and finance. And again, you can see how dispersed into multiple majors those lines are. The thickest goes into economics, then quite a few from political science, quite a few from history, but then broadly dispersed across many different majors. So this study is really fascinating to look at, even though it's just from one college, so it, I guess, limited in that way, but really fascinating confirmation of this idea that major is not prescriptive or definitive of career. Okay, so that was lesson 1. And my next sort of suggestion is, what can you do in light of that, right? And the first thing I want to suggest is that you get familiar with LinkedIn. Many of you perhaps already have LinkedIn profiles, which is great. It's a good thing to do. But in addition to that, I would highly recommend that you think of LinkedIn as a very, very friendly rabbit hole that it behooves you to go down often. And there are so many things you can learn by spending time on LinkedIn. And so just a couple of different things you can do. One is you can look at job descriptions, not in the sense of, doing a job search, but just in the sense of understanding what are job descriptions like. Right? But the other thing you can do, and this follows on the theme that we're talking about now, is to look at the career paths of people who have jobs that are of interest to you, right? And so they have a search, tool, and you can, just think of a job that sounds interesting, put that in the search title, the search bar, and then pull up the people who have that title, and then you'll essentially see their resume and look at their work history, see what their path was, see what they majored in, and see where that led them. And I think you'll find that very interesting, very instructive. You can also search by school. So you can look for alums from your university. And that can be another great thing to do because it can actually lead you to make some connections. Oops, I thought I had, yeah. So, and then the next sort of suggestion I have is to conduct informational interviews, which is to invite folks who are in positions that are interesting to you to meet with you for probably virtually these days to just help you learn more about how they reach the position they're in. You can find great resources online for how to do this, including lists of questions and what to and not to do. And particularly if you contact an alum from your school, I think you'll be surprised at how receptive they would be to meeting with you. Okay, so this is the other student that I was telling you about. This is a student who I asked if I could share her information, and she was happy to have me do that. She was one of my students, an English major, graduated about 12 years ago. And her career path has been totally unexpected, totally nonlinear, and totally satisfying. So right after North Park, she went to seminary, not to become a pastor, but because she was interested in studying theology. right? Just sort of more for intellectual satisfaction, I guess you would say, and not at all sure where that might lead her, right? So that was her first step. During seminary, she worked for the Parliament of World Religions, which is a very interesting, well, kind of what it sounds like, interfaith organization that physically meets, not every year, but every couple of years, I think. So she had an amazing experience with that group. After seminary, she had several different positions. She didn't stay at any of these positions for more than 2 years, most of them for a year, year and a half. So she worked at an organization called Interfaith Worker Justice, where she was a grant manager. When we talked about this, she said to me, well, you know, I didn't know what grant writing was, but I do know how to respond to a prompt as an English major. And she said, and that's gold in the work world. She said, who knew? From there, she went to another social service organization, the Night Ministry, where she was coordinator for corporate and foundation relations. You can kind of notice just by looking at her job titles, how they're sort of stepping up. Then she went to the Golden Apple Foundation, another nonprofit, where she was still involved with grants, but also now broadening out within the field of development or fundraising. She became assistant director of development. From there, she went to the organization that she then has remained in for the past 5 years, and I think intends to remain in, which is a professional association of women engineers. Not something she even knew existed when she was an undergrad, right? It's a small, the professional staff of the organization is small. She says that many are English majors, which is kind of interesting. They organize annual conferences and sponsor, I think they sponsor research grants and other educational activities to promote the advancement of women in engineering. She loves the people she works with. She's energized by the work that she's doing and would never have imagined a job like this. So again, you'll notice she's had 4 different positions within this organization. She started out in development because of her grant writing experience. Then she moved into strategic partnerships, which I assume has to do with still with development and fundraising. She got another title about a year later. And now she is the Director of Membership and Data Management. Not a job description she would even have thought about or understood or seen herself as even interested in 12 years ago as an undergrad. So when people asked her, you know, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? She certainly would not have said, well, first I'm going to go get a BA in English, and then I'm going to go to seminary, and then I'm going to be the Director of Membership and Data Management for the Society of Women Engineers in Chicago, and have a beautiful 3-year-old as well. But that's what she's doing, and it's been an extremely satisfying career path for her. So again, this notion of multiple steps to an eventual destination, steps that are not linear and steps that are not obvious. Okay, so I know we're getting a little low on time. I do have a second lesson, sort of second big point that I want to make, along with things you could do about it. And that is that employers value the liberal arts. Right? But that doesn't mean that you can just go out and say, I know how to interpret poetry, right? I know how to research the French Revolution, right? Because if you present your liberal arts experiences without translating them, so to speak, employers are less likely to see the value of what you can do. So it's incumbent on you to learn how to think about your experiences as liberal arts students in a way that translates into a work environment, right? And happily, there are plenty of resources to help you do this. And I think that the point at which a lot of students start to do this is when they write resumes. But I want to really encourage you to do it sooner and more often than that. I think that this is a good intellectual habit for you to get into, and I try to encourage my students to do this in every class I teach. Like, how are the activities we're doing in this class? Which are the experiences and how are these activities that are going to translate into a story you can tell in a job interview about an experience you had that is valuable in the workplace. So the National Association of Colleges and Employers does an annual job outlook survey. And one of the questions they ask is, they ask employers, what are the attributes you're looking for? What do you want in a candidate for a job? And if you go to their website, the NACE website, you can see over time how these are pretty consistent. They shift a little bit, the results. But as you look at this list, 91.2% of employers say that they're seeking problem-solving skills, 86% ability to work in a team, strong work ethic, analytical and quantitative skills, written communication skills. I'm actually surprised that one isn't even a little higher, because it seems like that all the job descriptions I look at talk about that. Leadership, verbal communication skills, initiative, right? So starting to understand this sort of vocabulary, right? Starting to understand, okay, so this is the language I need to translate my liberal arts experiences into, right? This is the audience I'm going to be talking to eventually, right? So how can I start thinking about my experiences, both curricular and co-curricular, in a way that's going to allow me to do that, right? And I'm going to skip this one actually. The image that I often have in my mind comes from time that I spend sometimes in the summer in Michigan, where there are these beautiful beach pebbles that have been so smoothed by the hundreds of years in the water. And I often bring a pocket full or more home. And I think it's a nice image to think about as you go into a job interview. You want to have a pocket full of pebbles that you've carefully chosen, each one of which is an experience you've had as an undergrad that you can talk about confidently in terms of the workplace competencies it demonstrates, right? So instead of just saying things like, well, I'm a great problem solver and I have initiative and I have leadership, you can pull out of your pocket one of those pebbles, beautifully smoothed and polished, that you carry around in your pocket, and talk about the time you did A, B, C, or D, and with real authenticity and energy that the employer will immediately perceive, you can tell the story of your liberal arts strengths. So let me give you, and just again, my eye on the clock here. I know we need to stop soon. Let me give you, and this is the last time I'll mention Emma, I promise, 3 examples from my daughter's experience at Lawrence. Maybe I'll just give you 2 of them. The first that I'll mention is something that happened to her when she was studying abroad. And so the first thing you need to do is think about what have been the peak experiences that I've had as an undergrad. Don't limit yourself. Don't just talk about your GPA. That is very dull. I don't want to hear about that if I'm an employer. I want to hear a story. And I want to hear a story that really shows that you can translate your experiences into my environment, which is the workplace. So Emma went to London for part of a semester. Lawrence was on quarters, so it was a quarter. And long story short, she went by herself, went to Belgium after that time in London, and then was going to return to London, spend the summer in London, and then come home. So she left all her stuff in London, went to Belgium, where she met a friend, spent a week, had a great time, and then was alone, going to come home, or go back to London. And was actually hoping to, she was doing an internship, she was going to resume the internship, and blah, blah, blah. She, at the, I think it was the airport, was stopped by the Belgian police, and they would not let her through. So it was essentially the border crossing, right? And she didn't have the right kind of visa. And it had to do with the fact that she'd been doing an internship. So she didn't just have a tourist visa, she had some kind of a student worker visa or something. And she, she thought she had asked all the right questions before she went, but apparently not. And so they looked at her phone, they looked at her bank accounts, they, made her sit there for several hours. When she told me about it later, to my amazement, she wasn't scared. She was angry, which is another whole story. It turned out that she was stuck. She was stuck in Belgium. It would have taken, she couldn't get back. She couldn't get back to London, where all her stuff was. And her friend by then, I think, had moved on, gone to France or something. So now she's in a foreign country, alone. And her plans have totally been upended, and she has to figure out what to do. And so, we talked on the phone, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that she took that situation and she made it into this amazingly wonderful experience. She ended up spending 3 weeks traveling around Belgium. She met somebody that she traveled with some of the time, spent time with some of the time. But we had decided that, she wasn't going to get back to London. We would just have to have her stuff shipped, blah, blah, blah. But she had to figure that all out, right? So it was stressful, but it was totally unexpected, and ultimately a little bit potentially frightening, but also very amazing experience. So that is a story that Emma tells all the time as examples of, well, I'll let you think about what that might be an example of, right? But that is totally a liberal arts experience that can translate into the workplace. The other, I guess I'll just leave it at that actually. The others are a paper she wrote outside her discipline that was super energizing to her, that she then presented at a conference on campus. And then an amazing class that she took and traveled to China with her class. So the point then is to figure out how, and I see I'm out of time, but how do you then pair up, right? So if we just take the Belgian border crossing, you know, how does she tell that story in a way that translates that liberal arts experience, you know, studying abroad, but, you know, having a totally unexpected thing happen. How does she translate that into the workplace competencies that employers are looking for? And as you look down that list, I think you'll see right away, well, clearly initiative, definitely verbal communication skills. She was communicating in French that whole time. Problem solving skills. Those would be the three that, you know, jump off the page at me. There probably are other ways she could spin that story as well. So I point to that example partly because it's such a great story, but also because it's not, you know, out of a classroom, right? So your liberal arts experience is everything you're doing as a college student. It's all the experiences that you're having as a college student. And so finding a way to kind of curate those experiences and make them into those rocks in your pocket that can tell the story, that can make you a wonderful candidate for that first job, which will then lead who knows where down the road. Well, I'm out of time. I had more, but I think I'll stop there. And I don't know if we have time for questions or not. I'll leave that up to you, Cindy.
Thank you, Nancy. No, I think you did a really good job explaining things and everything. You did a really good job. I think also this is going to translate really well into the next session that we're talking about, where we're going to talk about how these skills, how students could put them on their resume. So I think your story that you shared with your daughter and everything, I think it's going to be really helpful in good transition into our next session.
Great.
But it looks like we don't have any questions from the students. So thank you so much, Nancy.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of the morning, everyone.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy. And yeah, Cindy's right. Some of the themes from what Nancy's been talking about really link up well to some things you'll hear, not just in this session coming up right now, but also when Emmanuel Endefork talks about presenting yourself holistically to employers, that the totality of your experience. So we're going to move on to the first part of creating your career path toolbox, the experience you need to succeed in college and beyond. Our two presenters are Melissa Muth Martinez. She is Academic Success Coordinator at Dominican University, and Maria Gutierrez, who is Associate Director of Career Development and Student Success at Dominican. Thank you, ladies, and get started.
Let's see, they're still joining us right now. So we'll give them a few seconds to join us. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Good. How are you? We're just waiting for Maria.
Okay.
Mhm. Hi, Maria.
Hello, how are you, Cindy?
Good. Just so you guys know, Leslie already introduced you too. So if you guys want to go ahead and start your presentation, you guys are more than welcome to.
Okay, perfect. So I'll be sharing my screen. That's okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Sorry, everyone. Thanks for your patience. I'm just trying to get my PowerPoint to share with you all. Okay, so how is everyone doing? It's really good to be here with you all. I was really excited when I learned about this opportunity to come present to you today and to talk a little bit about cultivating meaningful campus experiences. So we know your time in college is, it's really precious, right? It's an opportunity to meet new people, to form new relationships, experience new things, learn about yourself, establish different goals, really look towards, different aspirations, right? So it's a time to build new skills and really acquire meaningful experiences that will serve you throughout your life, both personally and professionally. So the process of identifying skills and activities that can be showcased on your resumes and sold to employers is absolutely critical. We deem it an essential component of a true liberal arts education, right? So with that said, we're here today to discuss the importance of cultivating meaningful campus experiences to help you be as successful as possible when you're transitioning to your career. Many college students today are working one or more jobs while actively participating in on-campus experiences and in the community, right? So we believe all of this will be valuable to your employer in the years, in the months and years ahead, right? So giving you a foundation in which you can build upon as it pertains to developing meaningful experiences on campus that will translate into success beyond your years at your institution. So I wanted to start by sharing a video in hopes of just kind of setting the stage and reminding everyone about why a liberal arts education is so meaningful. The video is relatable given we're all speaking within the context of a liberal arts education. And so I'm excited to share just this really short video. I think it's about 5 minutes, just to kind of get us started and in the right frame of mind.
My name is Riya Mirchandani. I'm a sophomore and a refugee. Not a political refugee, but an intellectual one, from a country where one is allowed to pursue only a singular field of education and has to select that field at the naive age of 18. I wasn't ready to commit, especially when I didn't know what it was I wanted to commit to. Today, I'd like to share my story with you. Like every other college student, I'm currently in the midst of an existentialist quarter-life crisis where I'm questioning the purpose of everything, including that of TED Talks. But for now, let's return to the tale of Ria the refugee. I may sound a tad bit dramatic here, but the rigid Indian educational system, with its emphasis on gaining a marketable degree rather than a broad understanding of the world, can become intellectually oppressive. While I'm eternally grateful for its attempts to turn me into a human calculator, I knew by the time I had reached high school that I had to make my escape soon. So here I am today, seeking asylum at Brown University and finding solace in its open curriculum. I've taken classes in departments ranging from engineering to the literary arts in search of my calling. People tell me, you don't know what the heck you're doing. And I tell them, you're absolutely right. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I've taken 15 classes in 15 different departments. Graduating in 4 years seems harder than getting into Brown did 2 years ago. My diverse academic interests have always pulled me to extreme ends of the learning spectrum, from the sciences to the humanities. In high school, I did a project where these competing interests came to a collision. It was a physics project where we had to analyze the physics in everyday life. So I chose to do mine on the construction of a recent cable-stayed bridge in my city, Mumbai, called the Bandra-Worli Sea Link. This bridge was an engineering marvel, but was also 5 years overdue. When I spoke to the engineers who built it, our talks began with mathematical discussions of tensions and compressions, but we ended up talking about stresses of a different kind. I learned that in order to build this bridge, an entire coastal fishing community had to be displaced, which its community members obviously weren't very happy about. The engineers, for all their mathematical brilliance, lacked the interpersonal skills to communicate with these community members, either to convince them of the importance of this bridge or to reach some sort of compensation. So they outsourced this task to a group of negotiators, people who apparently had the socioeconomic background to understand the needs of the community. But these negotiators didn't understand a word of the language of engineering, and as a result, could not convince the community members why the ugly gray pillar on which the stability of this multi-million rupee structure had to be positioned exactly in the kitchens of homes and nowhere else. It was ironic that all three parties, the engineers, the community members, and the negotiators spoke the same language, but took 5 years to reach an agreement because of the information that was lost in translation. I began by telling you that this was a physics project. As you may have noticed, I didn't speak about much physics. Similarly, the report I finally handed in to my high school physics teacher spoke a little too extensively about these other problems that couldn't be described in terms of Newton's laws. I didn't do too well on this assignment. But I'd like to think that if you asked me to build a bridge today, I'd do a better job than my high school physics teacher who graded me. With time, I've realized that my dual academic interests can be a boon rather than a burden. My bridge project helped me understand that in the real world, science and humanities cannot survive in isolation. It only leads to inefficiency, like it did to build that bridge in India. The people who have realized this are the ones who've had the most impact. From Leonardo da Vinci to our very own Steve Jobs. Jobs had one philosophy, that the hardware, software, marketing, and packaging of all his products should go hand in hand, because they're completely interdependent. And that's the skill I hope a liberal arts education is able to give me. The ability to see things holistically, the big picture, but at the same time, the ability to zoom in on the details if I so choose to. Today, everyone is scrambling to buy fancy new cameras that can zoom in the maximum. But what if a camera lacked the ability to zoom out? A photographer would be lost in the details of something which he may not even want to be photographing, but he wouldn't be able to take a step back to see the big picture, to go wide before going deep. I admit, this going wide before going deep strategy can have its disadvantages. You can end up going too wide and not deep at all, becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none, as they say. This phrase is often used disparagingly to imply that you will never be exceptional at any one thing. But does that mean you won't be exceptional? During my time at Brown, I've picked up my fair share of Bs, and I've realized that though I'm interested in everything, I'm not particularly good at anything. But in the midst of our academic adventures, I've also picked up a unique skill set that somebody who is narrowly focused on fulfilling major requirements would not be able to match. I'd like to think that this is what makes me the exception. Because being exceptional is not just about being outstanding. it's also about standing out. You may ask me, what's the point in a physics major being able to understand Shakespeare's Hamlet? I wouldn't have an answer for you. It's something I'm figuring out for myself. In terms of job prospects in the big bad world out there, I can't say, because lucky for me, I still live in Brown's bubble. But I can speak for myself and say that personally, I want to have the skills that will let me appreciate both these areas of life. I feel like the more I expand my mind with diverse knowledge, the greater its surface area will be for me to absorb and understand my environment so I can truly engage with it. At the end of the day, each of us just wants to make an impact, to leave our footprints on the sands of time, as the poet Longfellow had said. I believe a liberal arts education is the best means of doing this. It's like looking at a pair of 3D glasses for the first time. With one lens red and the other blue, you wonder how this could do anything but possibly mess with your eyesight. But when you put it on, it allows you to see the world differently, adding another dimension to it, quite literally. So while my extremely liberal education may not make me the best doctor and may not make me the best economist, it will help me see things differently, think differently, and hopefully to make a difference. Thank you.
So thanks for taking time with us to watch that video. I really, really love the message of that particular speaker. As she notes, it's one thing to really just grasp an academic concept, and it's something even more to be able to acquire experiences and skills that translate into a wide array of professional contexts, right? And so as she notes, it's about learning to see things holistically so that you can go out into the world, stand out, and really make a difference. So I wanted to just share that with you all as a way to get us started.
So let's begin by taking a look at what our employers looking for in recent graduates. And as we take a look at these skills, I want all of us to remember these throughout the presentation so we could connect them with the different experiences that we will be gaining through your 4 years of college. So in January 2020, the National Association of Colleges and Employers surveyed employers to receive feedback as to what are the attributes employers are seeking for in our recent graduates. And these were the top 10 skills. So employers are looking for students as the top one to have ability to problem solve, work in a team setting, communication skills, leadership, detail-oriented. And so with these skills, what I find very important for a small liberal art institution is that students you are all going to gain these and develop these through your 4 years through different on-campus experiences. For example, in a classroom setting, students will have to work in team settings to come up with different projects. You'll have to present, so you will be practicing these communication skills as well as your written skills, because you're going to come up with these presentations, right? That you're going to share with your classmates. Once you become part of a club or organization on campus, you're going to build on your leadership skills within your role in these organizations. You're going to come up with possibly different initiatives for your clubs. So start thinking of how these skills you will be gaining them throughout the 4 years and the different types of experiences. And as we move on, we'll continue to talk about these a lot. But I do want to mention that one of my favorite ones, because students are always so worried, is this technical skill. Students here at Dominican are able to take a computer information system course where they get to learn about Microsoft Suite. However, oftentimes students want to be able to gain more technical skills. So something that we offer is LinkedIn Learning through LinkedIn. So what is this? This is actually a really nice online platform that helps students discover and develop technical skills. And it the way you do it is through expert-led course videos that are available through the LinkedIn Learning application. The neat part about this platform is that when you actually complete the course videos, you receive a badge, and that badge actually allows employers to know that you have taken the time to further on that technical knowledge with this platform. So on your LinkedIn profile, you will get this badge that says, you know, so-and-so has taken this course. And so, you know, that is going to be something that you could highlight, and you could take this also as part of your experience for entry-level position. So all of these experiences, you want to make sure that you are highlighting them when you are developing your resume, and you want to make sure that you are keeping in mind, you know, all of these top 10 skills that NACE is looking for when it comes to employment.
So thanks so much, Maria, for talking a little bit further about those skills that employers are really looking for. Just to kind of contextualize things a little bit, I want to talk about what a meaningful experience is, how you can define those experiences and determine what's valuable versus what might not be, right? And so we've identified some different experiences that you might have or acquire on campus and sometimes off campus, right? That will help you build the skills that Maria was just talking about. So, you know, when we think about, you know, meaningful experiences, you know, we're talking about on-campus jobs, we're talking about research opportunities with faculty, clubs and organizations, study abroad, volunteer work, community-based organizations, you know, do a lot with different schools. So getting involved that way. Internships, right? So these are just this is just a sampling of these different types of experiences that you can tap into as a college student. I want to kind of go more in depth in terms of what each experience entails and how it kind of connects back to some of those skills that employers are really looking for. With volunteer work and community-based organizations, this is absolutely essential in the context of a world in which social engagement is so meaningful, and employers want to know that the individuals that they're hiring reflect well on the company's values and mission and all of those sorts of things, right? So having the opportunity to engage in volunteer work and be involved with your community can really help you demonstrate who you are as an individual, what you value, what you care about, right? In some cases, individuals that you're meeting through your volunteer work and community-based organizations can help guide you to different career opportunities. Maybe you're interested in working in a nonprofit, or maybe that person has a connection with someone else who works at an organization or a larger company that you are interested in being employed at. In addition, with volunteer work, you're often doing different projects with you know, different folks in the community. Sometimes individuals who are very different, come from very different backgrounds than your own. So that's another asset that you're acquiring when you're doing that type of work. On-campus jobs.
Oh, sorry, Melissa. I just wanted to, you know, mention with the volunteer opportunities, you know, also remember that this is a really great time for you to network and build on that experience, because these are the individuals that are, you know, seeing how you're performing as well. So that's going to be, you know, valuable in your process. They might even hire you, as a matter of fact, because they see, you know, the type of experience and what you have brought into the volunteer opportunity.
Absolutely. And I'll probably have you jump in again for this one, Maria, but, you know, on-campus jobs, students who are engaged on campus through on-campus employment not only have a greater level of, you know, school life balance, in the sense that being a student comes first, right? So your on-campus jobs, your employer, or I'm sorry, your supervisors and things will be flexible with you as it pertains to your schedule, and ensure that you're not overworking yourself to the point that you can't do your schoolwork successfully. But aside from that, you're also gaining really important skills. You're able to put your institution on your resume, right? That stands out. You're able to acquire people skills. When I was in college, I worked at the front desk in our student center, and I was able to get access to all sorts of, different information about the institution and help guide people to different resources, which is something I do a lot of in my current job. There are mentorship opportunities to be mentors to other students. So with that particular type of position, you're learning how to work collaboratively with others, how to plan events, how to guide people to resources, all of those sorts of things. Even in the case of, positions, maybe something that might seem trivial like dishwashing, you're still acquiring skills that are valuable and can be translated into something really meaningful on your resume. I don't know if Maria, you want to speak a little more to that.
Yes, absolutely. So with the on-campus jobs, we really want you to look at the transferable skills, right? So that teamwork that you will be working in, those leaderships, the ability to communicate effectively, those are the ones that you are also going to be highlighting on your resume. So, it doesn't matter what position it is on campus, it's about thinking of the transferable skills that are going to help you acquire that next position. So as you are applying for on-campus job, know that this is important to employers, because this is experience that you are gaining, and it's going to be very valuable no matter what position it is. We always are going to be just looking at those transferable skills and making sure that that is what we are putting on your resume.
Thanks, Maria. And when it comes to research opportunities, most colleges and universities have opportunities for students to work alongside faculty, to work collaboratively with their professors, to conduct research on different topics. Maybe that research is specifically oriented around a field or a subject that you're interested in working on in your future with your future employer, or perhaps you're simply acquiring skills pertaining to, investigative skills, right? So identifying a problem and figuring out solutions surrounding that problem, or simply trying to gather information to help spread awareness about a particular problem, which is something that you're certainly going to have to do, in your employment settings, right? You're also, again, developing those communication skills, those critical thinking skills that are so important within the workplace. You can't do research with a faculty member without being communicative, without, being a critical thinker. So you're definitely gaining experiences that are meaningful through that type of opportunity. In terms of clubs and organizations, there are all sorts of clubs and organizations on campus, and we often encourage students to become leaders, or a part of the leadership team of that club or organization, or to, if for example there's no club that identifies with them, to create that club, right? Most of your institutions probably have a pretty seamless process when it comes to the creation of a club or organization. That shows that you're a go-getter. That shows that you're someone who takes initiative, right? When you have a leadership role in a club or an organization, whether you're a treasurer or a secretary or a president or vice president of that club and organization, and can highlight different events that you've done or different initiatives that you've gotten off the ground, those are really important experiences that you'll want to sell to employers.
And can I also mention, even just being a member of a club and organization, it still shows that, initiative to be part of something, right? So you want to also add it, even if you did not have a leadership role necessarily, because within that club organizations, there's going to be activities that you're going to participate, you're going to be doing teamwork building. So know that, you don't necessarily always have to have a leadership role within the club organization or create one, but you're still gaining valuable experience by just even being part of it.
Fundraising too is another one that a lot of clubs and organizations do, and we always encourage students to highlight that on their resumes as well, because ultimately a lot of jobs do have a sales component or do have, there's a monetary incentive, right? So being able to show that you have that type of mindset is really, really important. Study abroad. This is my personal favorite. Study abroad really transformed my life. I studied abroad in Venezuela when I was an undergrad, and the experiences I acquired from that were just so many. The perspective, the cross-cultural competence, the being in a country that was experiencing political challenges, and navigating communication barriers and things of the like, really improving my Spanish skills within the context of Latin America, right? And on that particular note, it's important to consider that, a lot of you may also be bilingual, right? But just because you speak Spanish or Polish or Mandarin at home doesn't mean that you shouldn't consider the opportunity to take classes to kind of formalize your skills or to expand your vocabulary, or to study abroad so that you can expand your knowledge of the language. Because ultimately, business and informal Spanish are very different, right? And the language skills are really, really, really beneficial. So, exploring, the different language classes that are available on campus in conjunction with study abroad are really, really meaningful. Going back to that cross-cultural component, acquiring cross-cultural competence is one of the most important, it's one of the most important skills you can have as you're entering the workforce, especially, in the context of globalization and, people from all different backgrounds, all different religions, ethnicities, from different political ideologies, all of those sorts of things. Having that experience and being able to convey that to an employer is so, so important. Maria, is there anything you wanted to add there with study abroad?
No, I think you mentioned everything very well. Thank you.
Okay. In terms of internships, of course, that's a meaningful experience because it's direct exposure to the workforce and the nuances of life as an employee, right? We encourage students to take on internships that mirror their interests, right? But sometimes students take on internships that don't really reflect exactly what they're wanting to do, but those internships teach them that, oh, I do like this, or I don't like this. So it can help them contextualize further what it is they want to do in life versus what they don't want to do in life. So that's also really, really important to consider. I did forget one thing that I wanted to go back to in terms of clubs and organizations. We wanted to make sure to mention also, your role as a student athlete. For those of you who are involved in sports and those sorts of things, Maria has mentioned the importance of teamwork. And so if you are a member of a athletic team, whether it's an intramural or something more formal with the school, the skills you're gaining in terms of teamwork and building community and all of those sorts of things, strategizing, right? Those are also important to consider.
And I do want to mention with the internship, before we finish the internship and projects, sometimes we know that, students are working full time, might be working 2 full-time jobs or 2 part-time jobs. And so you want to also highlight those projects that you may be working on in a classroom. That is completely okay to highlight, even if you don't get that internship experience, right? So oftentimes here we have students that, can choose between an internship and a capstone. But because the capstone, has just, it's a certain amount of hours, it is in classroom setting, students may prefer that if they, are full-time workers, and that is okay. You want to highlight what you did in that project because you are still gaining experience from that project. You may be working in a team setting to finish that one project through a different company outside of the institution. So, what we're going to be highlighting in that experience is going to be, what was the project about? What were your responsibilities, right, within that project? What was your experience like? Who did you work for, right? It could be, a really good, well-known company. So that's also going to be very good to have on your resume.
And two, some of you might be finding this a little irrelevant because you're like, well, I want to go to graduate school. Well, the fact of the matter is that these skills and these experiences will certainly help sell your application to graduate admission committees. So do not hesitate to there when you're volunteering, when you're working on campus, when you're researching with your professors, studying abroad, gaining cross-cultural competence, engaged in clubs, organizations, internships. All of these things can help build out a really robust and just really wonderful graduate application. So that's important to consider as well.
So now that we have, taken the time to look at experiences and how they're important and why we should be highlighting on the resume. So how do we even begin to put this all together, right? So let's start by tailoring and highlighting first all of your education and your educational experience, right? Because that's going to be the most recent experience, and that's going to show, how active you were on campus. What else have you done, right? That outside of just schoolwork. So we want to start always with education related categories. So your education, your study abroad, any on-campus job opportunities that we mentioned. So all of the previous categories that were mentioned, that's what you want to start off with. And we want to also make sure that it's the most relevant information on top in chronological order to the least relevant. So if maybe you are currently working a customer service job, that may be a little bit less relevant as maybe your internship. So that will go all the way at the bottom, but we want to focus always on all of our educational experience on the top of your resume. Let me see here. So yes. And make sure something very important is make sure you're highlighting your GPA if you have a strong GPA, that as you are describing some of your responsibilities and duties within the leadership roles or within the study abroad, like tell me more about that, right? Make sure that you have like strong action verbs that are describing these things. These action verbs, can be, some examples could be like you manage, you were in charge, you led a team, right? You handled a project. So definitely, yes, definitely make sure that, your resume is not only strong with what you are highlighting, but also what your responsibilities and duties are stating. And so one of the things we want to do today is we want to take the time to have everyone really, take a look at the valuable experience that you have gained throughout the time that you have been in college. And really, let's try to connect those back to your resume, right? So in the chat, if would like to let us know how many of you already have a resume. It doesn't have to have everything we discussed right now, but how many of you already have a resume? And you could just say yes or no, so we could kind of get a sense.
Cindy, are you able to monitor the chat?
Yes.
Thanks so much.
And if you go on chat, Melissa, you could put panelists and attendees and we could see who has submitted their questions. So I see
Some people say not yet. Yes.
Yes.
I think
Not yet. I have. Okay. Yes. Wonderful.
5 students from Eureka also. Good.
Yeah. So we got a few no's, but we also are getting a few yeses, which is wonderful. Yes. Okay. So now what I want everyone to really think about is what kind of experiences currently do you have on your resume? And you could just type maybe a few on here. And it could be, if we talked about it, it could be some of the ones we talked about. If we didn't talk about it, that's completely fine as well.
Maria, you only have another 5 minutes, so you may not want to wait for responses.
Oh, okay, okay. So, what I want everybody to take away from this is, really start thinking of those experiences that you are gaining or have gained throughout your time in college as of, today. And start connecting those back to your resume to make sure that, you have a strong resume. You are really highlighting all your wonderful experience on that resume. And let's go ahead and make some edits within the next couple of weeks, especially once we are done with classes. Take that time to start making those edits on your resume. It is the perfect time for everybody. Don't wait. Oh, I see peer mentor. Yes, that is a wonderful, that's wonderful to have in your resume. You want to go on to the other slide to make sure we have enough time.
Leslie, to confirm, I know that you guys got a little behind. Do we have time for questions after those 5 minutes, or should we move to questions now?
You probably want to move to questions now.
Okay. So in wrapping up, I just wanted to remind everyone that, with the world shifting and evolving and everything becoming increasingly globalized, right? We need to gain new skills as much as possible. So this video, and I can drop the link in the chat so that you can all watch it, is really meaningful because it really just speaks to this idea that, yes, the world is moving at this incredibly fast pace, and it might feel like, oh my gosh, I have to learn all these new skills. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job because of automation or technology or whatever it might be. But the reality is that learning is a lifelong process, right? So when you leave college, when you leave your institution, that learning doesn't stop, right? The acquisition of skills, the building of new knowledge, right? That is something that you're going to have to do throughout your lifetime. So we really want you to take away from this and to start, as you're building skills from your on-campus experiences, thinking about how meaningful all of that was in terms of your growth and development and your learning process, and carrying that forward with you. So I encourage you all to use this as a time to prepare yourselves for a career of continuous learning and transformation. And so with that, I want to make sure that we leave some time for questions from students, to ensure that we can give you as much valuable information as possible. Thank you so much.
Melissa, we had a question that was submitted in advance that so that you can answer this one anyway. And that is, how do you go about analyzing a particular activity that you're involved in college to figure out what skill set it gives you?
Absolutely. Maria, do you want to take that one?
Sure, yes. So what you want to see, what you want to do is you want to see is what is it that you're learning, right, from that activity? Do you have any responsibilities that you are handling within that activity, right? I would even, do a search, like look at that list that I provided, right, in terms of skills. So what about those skills that you are learning within that activity? And then that way you can talk about it as you are, talking to your employer. Sorry, I don't know what happened with my screen.
Oh, no, that was me. I was actually going to drop the presentation in the chat so that everyone can have access to the materials.
Where did you go?
Can you hear me?
Oh, no. What happened?
Okay, the screen is back up, and I think we're gonna move along. Cindy, do you want to introduce our new speaker? Thank you very much, Melissa and Maria. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone. So we can send the presentation forward for anyone who would like to receive it and look through the materials further. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Yeah,
good-
of course. Mhm. Let's see. Alrighty, let's see. All right, everybody. So the next person, let me pull this up. The next person is Emmanuel Endefor, with Head of Growth at Upkey. So let's see. Emmanuel is a passionate entrepreneur and advocate for diversity and equity and inclusion, working to afford all students equal opportunity to experience professional opportunities that further their own passion, and Endefor's extensive experience with and understanding the startup culture, venture capital, and digital marketing define his life's work. As a member of Upkey's leadership team, Endefor led the company to raise $2 million in seed funding. Now, by helping creating a scalable programs and partnership, he is driving Upkey's growth towards a critical second round of funding. A native of Cameroon, which is in Central Africa, Endefor ended MBA from Concordia University, Chicago, and prior to joining Upkey, he founded an RIV marketing and digital marketing firm for our small and mid-sized business and provided marketing consulting for various universities for a scalable ed tech career development tools. Upkey, so a little bit about Upkey as we wait for Emmanuel to join us. It is a Chicago-based startup that built itself as the world's first student incubator. It offers a student web-based interactive service supporting their professional success and dramatically improving their chances of career placement after graduation. The hallmark, and I see Emmanuel has joined us. Hello. The hallmark of Upkey's success is engaging and gamified nature of its services powered by AI, which is artificial intelligence, making it scalable and easy for students to create their resume, build elevator pitches, and work on their personal brand. So let me stop sharing my screen, and so that we'll be able to see Emmanuel. There we go. Let's see. And he will just be joining us in a little bit. He just has to turn on his camera.
Can you guys
hi,
see me?
Emmanuel.
No?
I can hear you. I can't see you yet. Oh, I think there you go. We're good to go.
All right.
Sounds good. And
All
I
right.
just introduced you, Emmanuel. So if you want to start up, they'll be perfectly fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cindy. Thanks for
You're
the invitation
welcome.
here.
Of course.
All right. Let's see what we have in the chat. All right. So thank you for everyone that's joining me today. I would like this session to be interactive. I don't want to feel like a professor here that I'm just like, pouring down that content to you. I remember my days back in grad school and college. I did not really like when the teachers spoke for hours at length. So if you can please also tell me where you are dialing in from, that would be super awesome. Just give me some sort of like a background so I should know the group that I'm working with here today, so we can make this session very interactive. And a couple of rule of thumb for me when I present is, you at any point during the presentation, you can stop me, okay? You can say, Manuel, stop. I want to ask a question. I want to have an interaction with you. I welcome all of that. So please try and make the interaction as engaging as possible. I'll try to share my screen here if I have the permission to. Yes, I do. Let's see if this works. How are you guys doing this morning? Happy, excited, tired? Are you guys able to write in the chat? Let's see if this works.
Oh, big stretches. Oh, everything's off.
No, it's me. Emmanuel, it looks like some people said that they're going good. And just so you know, there's a group of about 10 students from Eureka College, and they are watching as a group on the chat.
Okay.
It says they said they're all doing great.
Oh, okay, thanks. I'm trying to share my screen here. Just give me a second. And I see someone from Albania. Nice, lovely. This is a global audience here. Trying to bring up my PowerPoint presentation. I had it up a second ago. And when you guys can see my screen, let me know. Can you guys see my screen? Yes, I think
Yep,
so.
we can see it.
All right, let me start from the beginning. So, well, I want to thank ACI for their partnership, but also for bringing me here to, have this conversation with you. I think especially given the times, it's important for students to, develop new skills, learn how to leverage resources, and also know how they can be empowered to take agency to do something meaningful for themselves, especially given the times that we are in. And I know a lot of you have been impacted by COVID. As an entrepreneur, as someone that has been with Upkey for a while, and we work with a lot of students, we firsthand see the impact, the negative impact that COVID has had, not just on the economy or with businesses, but also to the students. And thinking about the students and the students that we work with and how we want to have an impact on the students' life, we try to make sure that we can always be a resource for students so that they can have multiple avenues, be it mentorship, be it opportunity to learn from people like myself or from Upkey in general or from other professionals, be a gateway for us to help make sure that relationship can take place. So again, for all the students here, you are doing yourself a great favor, and I think it's awesome that you are taking the time to be here with me today. Now, a little bit about myself. My name, of course, Emmanuel Ndifor, and I head growth at Upkey. Fun facts about me: I have 6 siblings. I'm from Cameroon, Central Africa. Not sure how many of you know about Cameroon. It's a beautiful place. And during my spare time, I love playing soccer. Now, if my brothers and sisters and friends from Cameroon hear me calling it soccer, they're probably just going to examine me, because back home it's called football. And here, when I say football, everybody thinks of American football. So I'm caught in that crossfire right there. And I love fitness, right? I love taking care of myself. Health is important to me. And I make sure that whatever I do, whatever activities that take place in my life, and how busy I am with work or anything that I do, I make it a point to, go to the gym, go on the track, run, lift some weight. That makes me feel good. That re-energizes me. And of course, right, I'm a foodie. I love food. I love exploring different cultures. And food is one of the ways that I use to go and explore cultures. At any given point in time, if you come and look at me when I'm working or during my entire week, any of these facial expressions can determine my mood during that time. So for those who work with me very closely at Upkey, they have a good understanding of my facial expression. If they want to come to me, or they say, hey, I'm just going to give you some space. So at any given point in time, this is what my expression is going to be represented as. Now, one of the things I wanted to share with you before I get this session started is to share a little bit about my story and why I'm here and why I do what I'm doing, just so that as we are going through this experience, this webinar experience, you can see that no matter what you think about me and my accomplishment, that I'm not so different from you. I have been in your shoes, and the path that you're taking, which is different for every student, I have faced similar challenges. Now, I remember a time when I moved to Chicago from Cameroon, and I came here for the hope of the American dream. I came here to establish my professional career and also to have access to networks that I wasn't born into. One of the things that immediately just caught my attention is the fact that everything was different in America. Everything was different in Chicago. And the first time I landed at O'Hare, I remember it was Terminal 3. The moment I came out, it was about 60 degrees. And I've never like encountered that type of weather before. And I had to run back into the airport because to me, that weather was just extremely cold. And I thought that was going to kill me. I literally looked at my phone and I looked at the flight back home. The only reason why I'm here is because I couldn't afford it. So hey guys, when you think about adversity and encountering things that could be cultural shock to you or things that you've never been exposed to, trust me, I have faced that firsthand. And I went to Concordia, and I don't know if we have Concordia students here. And one of the things that I learned about my time at Concordia is Concordia was a great university. It's an environment that cares for people. It's a small, close-knit university, and you have access to a lot of resources, but not all of the resources that I had at Concordia were the things that I needed to, take my career professional development to the next level. So I had to do it. I had to step up. And I worked for the College of Business at Concordia. And after a period of 2 years, I graduated, went into entrepreneurship, started a marketing agency, did well for myself. And that's when I met Amir, the founder and CEO of Upkey. And at the time, Upkey was just a piece of a piece of idea, an idea on a piece of paper, right? And what happened was over the course of 2 years, we interacted. I helped him because my background was in marketing. I helped him with some marketing strategies, helped him establish a company a little bit and did my part. But a point came when we had more funding and I had to, leave my marketing startup and join him on board. People said that was crazy, but I guess that is proven to be the best, crazy idea that has been the star of my career so far. So not to go on a tangent at Upkey, what I do there, but what recently we've been able to accomplish is through my help with the company, we've been able to, secure venture funding for recently $2 million. And we are on course to raise $10 million in the next 18 months. And this is to share with you that no matter where you start, no matter where you want to go to, the process is not going to be fun. You have to, make decisions that at a time, they may not seem to be the right decisions to you, to your friends, to your family. But if you truly believe in what you're doing, if you truly believe in the course that you're taking, then again, it may end up being good for you. And this is just start of my career. And I encourage each and every one of you, no matter where you are today, just think about life, think about your professional development with an open eye, have an open lens to things, and never make every opportunity count. An opportunity that you get to talk to someone like myself, with your professors, or your mentors, I want you to make sure that you make all of that count. Now, how am I feeling today, right? This is a good representation of me this morning. And why am I excited? I'm excited because I'm talking to you fantastic individuals, right? I'm excited because I'm here to do something that I love, but also because today is also the close of our VIP program. Over the course of 6 weeks, we have been able to work with 1,200 students from around the world to help them with professional development. And right now we have our closing session that's going on right now. It's going to finish at 12:30. At 1 o'clock. So after this session, I'm going to go round up the entire VIP experience. I'm excited because of the impact that I know content like this can have on students' life. I'm excited because I know regardless of what is going on in the world today, there is an opportunity, not just for me, but even for you to have an impact in your own life and in the people that are in close proximity to you. So I'm excited and I hope that you are excited as well. throughout the course of this hour that I'm going to spend with you, I'm going to really touch on three key things, right? I'm going to talk about how to build a professional image. I'm going to talk about the importance of building social capital. I don't know if some of you are familiar with the concept of social capital. I'm going to touch a little bit about that. And also I'm going to touch a little bit about some of the products and tools that UpKey has developed to help students not only build a professional image, but to stand out. And the last thing I'm going to touch on very briefly would be how to show up for an interview. What attitude do you need to show up for an interview? Again, please, if you have any question, just please let me know in the chat. I cannot see the chat, so I'm going to like flip between the presenters mode and the other mode so I can see some chats. Now, I want you to interact with me on this. You can actually unmute yourself and tell me what you see. When you see this image, what do you see? What comes to mind? I want you to take a look at it. And if you want to use your audio, please do that. What do you see? And Cindy, if there's anything in the chat, if you want to help me with that, that would be awesome too.
Yeah, I'll monitor it for you.
Come on, I just need one person to tell me what they see.
Someone says happiness, happy people.
Happiness, happy people, right? Okay.
Achievement.
Achievement, yes, that's good. Achievement. All right, let's go with happiness and achievement. Now, my first this first section of this presentation is going to focus on building that professional image, that brand. And there are a couple of things that I want you to think about. One is who you are, what you think you are, and the perception, what people perceive of who you are. So those things are very fundamental and they're important. And as you are going into the world and as you are trying to, get that first job, get that first interview, it's important to see things in different lens. It's supposed to have that diverse perspective. Because when I go and I interview a lot of students, one of the things that I try to mentor them after that interview is your resume is one thing, who you are is one thing, and how you portray yourself to me and to the world is another thing. Do you really understand how all of those things and all of those three components, how do they come together? Now, the next question here is, when you look at this blank canvas, I want you to picture yourself in 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years, close your eyes. Let's do this exercise. It may sound boring, but just indulge me. Think about what you want to be. Think about who you want to look like. Think about what you want to be doing. Think about what makes you happy. And think about how you want to impact the world. When you close your eyes, what do you see? Give a couple of seconds for you to think about that. And if there are any responses in the chat section, please let me know. If a student wants to come and talk, you can unmute yourself. I'm happy to hear from you. Let's see if I can open this chat. All right. Achievement. I don't know if this is new. Cindy, is the achievement new or that's an old chat question? All right. Well, I hope you saw something, right? Myself saving up to start my own business. Thank you, Deshaun. Thank you so much, Deshaun. Yeah, yourself starting your own business. You want to be an entrepreneur. That's awesome. I'm happy to talk to you about that too, because that's my entire life, right? Starting up a business and making a business grow. So we can connect on LinkedIn after this and we can talk about how to help you, how can I help you put together some strategies to get there. Now, what I see for myself is this. Crazy picture that I took the other day when I just finished a podcast. Of course, you know the Zoom wall, you look it up and below you just dress casually, right? So in that moment, after giving this presentation, after talking to this individual on that podcast, what I saw and what really struck to me was the fact that it's going to be criminal for me to think about myself and not trying to help others. Whatever I'm doing, I think that fundamentally, I'm happy when I see that impact. And whatever I try to do with myself, whatever I try to engage with outside of Upkey, on social media, on LinkedIn, the network that I build is to position myself to make sure that I can have an impact in people's lives. That's what I see. And that goes to your brand. When you think about yourself as an individual, you are your own brand. And as you are trying to develop that professional image, gone are the days, and trust me when I say this, gone are the days when you go to an employer and they just look at your resume to see if you're a good fit for the organization. That is far gone. That is not going to come again, because the environment is so competitive and every student is a brand. Now, when I talk to students and I present on branding, I always have one thing to tell them. When you think about brand, especially the word personal brand, it means you. You are your brand, and how you present yourself to the world, that is your brand. And your brand identity is what is going to give you a competitive advantage when you're going out there to the world. If Deshaun, if it's to start that new business, or if you're trying to apply for an interview, or if you're trying to apply for a first-time job straight out of college, it's not only about your resume anymore. It's about the image that you show the world. It's about that brand. It's about that brand identity. It's about when you walk in a room, when you're going to an interview, if someone goes on LinkedIn and searches Deshaun Moore, what do they see? What brand image can they associate with Deshaun? And is that a good fit for an organization? So always think about this more holistically. Think about your interactions with individuals. Think about your interaction with your network on LinkedIn, about the things you post on LinkedIn as a representation of your brand. And your brand becomes your professional image. Even if it's a student, what activities are you involved with? What do you do during your spare time to make yourself more competitive? Do you learn new skills? Do you talk about the things you care about? The things you care about, are they in line with what the company wants from their employees? Because employers are trying to now leverage people's personal brand to push their messages forward. Now, if you're someone who doesn't give 2 cents about equality, or about social justice, or about, the treatment of minorities in the environment, when you portray that to the wall, if you go on LinkedIn and you show that image to the wall, and a company wants to get into a business relationship with you as an employee, then when they see that, you guys are already disconnected. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how smart you are, but it's about that professional image that you have. Is it in line with what the company wants? So thinking about your brand, thinking about how you can leverage that is extremely important. Now, one of the things that I hear from students all the time is, oh my God, I'm still young. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. Do I really have a brand that can help me differentiate myself when I'm going for an interview? Absolutely. Heck yes, you can. You have a brand. And you see a lot of younger influencers on LinkedIn every day that are sometimes high school students and sometimes college freshmen that have a brand that even the biggest executives in Fortune 500 companies respect their opinion and their thought on LinkedIn. So there is an opportunity for you to build your professional image in a way that can create a competitive edge between you, your employers, and the other applicants. So I want you to think about that carefully. And as you have that brand, guess what? You are going to go into the world. It's going to be you versus the world. It's going to be you versus everybody else out there. It's a very competitive landscape. And as you're building that professional image, you got to ask yourself a couple of questions. Where are you? What are your goals? How can you achieve them? And who can help you? And one of the things that we take very seriously at Upkey, and even myself personally, is to ensure that as we are answering these questions for you, we can also bring you into the mix so that whatever we create can help you answer these questions for yourself. And it is a fundamental and very important part of how we work as an organization. Because if we can meet you where you are, how can we truly understand your problem? But more importantly, if you can identify or answer these questions for yourself, how can you truly understand the environment that you are walking into? For many of you on this call, I am confident that you face adversity every single day in your life. And the COVID pandemic didn't make that any better. You may be going to school right now and you have sent out 500 applications for an internship or for a job. But sometimes you haven't even heard from one company. You're going to start doubting yourself. You're going to start asking yourself questions. But have you truly asked yourself the fundamental questions? Where are you? What are your goals? How can you achieve them? There's no question sign there. I'm going to add that. And who can help you? It's important to understand that you need help. I came in from Cameroon and I thought I could do everything by myself. I am that type of individual that just wants to go and just want to crack and break down those doors. But guess what? You need that help. It could be from ACI. And right now, the fact that you are here, you understand that you need the help. So I applaud you for that. But also it could be through your academic institutions, having mentors, having people around you that care. And for some of you, the truthful answers to that may not really give you that competitive advantage. But by understanding where you are, you can understand what you need to get to your destination. And that brings me into social capital. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the concept of social capital, but I really like this definition from Bordeaux and Wacon. And it goes, it's the sum of the resources, actual or virtual, that accrues to an individual or group by the virtue of possessing a durable network of more or less institutionalized relationships of mutual acquaintance and recognition. Now, there are so many ways to look at social capital, and I choose this one because it really breaks it into the personal and the professional. When I moved to Chicago, I didn't know a single individual, and I didn't know any group that could help me achieve my entrepreneurial goals. And I work with a lot of students that live from the south side of Chicago, the west side, the north side. You were probably born into a network that can give you access to some knowledge, to some resources, to some contacts. But on the other hand, you may be born into a network that doesn't really have that. And depending on where you are, there is a problem, there's a pro and con for it. But it's about how do you take action to ensure that you can build social capital. Now, you may be looking for a job, you may be looking for an internship. We may have a tool that could help you understand one aspect of your journey to help you achieve your objectives, but we do not have everything. But the question is, how do you go about building a network of people that you share the same values with that can help you achieve your goals? Think about a student that goes to Concordia or UIC. They work at an IHOP, maybe from a single parent family, right? During the summer period, they probably need to go and find a job to pay them. And when the competition out there is very stiff, maybe that job may not be related to their majors of studies. For that student, their reality is different. And the way employers look at candidates, it's very biased, right? And that's the truth. It's very biased. If you didn't have this, if you don't have that, if you don't go to this school sometimes, if you don't have X, Y, and Z GPA, then maybe you're not a good fit, which we think is fundamentally very wrong. But that's the reality out there. Now you have to start identifying who can help me become more prepared, who can help me become a better version of myself. It could be by building new networks, by looking for mentors, and I can't stress that enough, by going to your career services if you have one, which I'm sure everybody here has career services, by talking to your advisors, by talking to people you meet on the road, and in this virtual world, by attending summits like this, or looking for other summits that you may be exposed to people that can give you one bit of knowledge that you can use to become a better individual, to stand out from the crowd. Now, I don't want to really dive deep into social capital, but a couple of ways that people build social capital, the stem of social capital, it's through the culture, the family, education, residential mobility. Do you live in X, Y, and Z zip code versus that zip code? Depending on the zip code that you live in, you have access to different resources, and studies have shown that these are not things that I'm just pulling from my behind. These are things that have been studied and researched, that all of the above here have an impact to the social capital that you can access. If you want to work for a Goldman Sachs, and this is the truth, if you want to work for a big four consulting company, it's extremely hard if the following are not true. It is extremely hard, and this is the bias of the system, if no matter what professional image you have, which can help you, but also your education, the school you go to, and this may be the hard truth, but it is the truth. Does that big four company recruit at their university? If they don't, then it's harder, right? Do you have anyone that works for a big four consulting company that can influence your resume to be put in front of a hiring manager? The truth is, it plays a huge role. Residential mobility. Do you live in an environment where even if you don't have someone in your family or you didn't go to that school, you can walk up to them and say, hey, John Doe, can you help me? And if that individual knows you and they have a common theme of values on culture and history, depending on where you live, can they say, all right, let me talk to you? It's important. Now, how can we help you? What tool can I really give you to impact your journey, your perspective? At Upkey, we have a couple of tools, right? We have the SAM product, we have the resume, the resume product, we have Gina, the pitch module, we have Margaret, the brand module, we have Jazz, the internship in jobs. And all of this is to help you understand how to differentiate yourself. And I'm going to go into maybe Gina today, but there is so much more that you could do. All of these could be the foundation. It could just be a starting point for you, but it's not the end all and be all for you, because you have to take that step to ensure that you take these tools and build your professional brand, go out there, leverage your network, build meaningful relationships that can help you, leverage the resources that you have within your secondary, primary, and tertiary network so that you can become more competitive. And now we are going to go into a live demo of the Gina tool. But I'm going to stop here while I stop in to share my screen so that we can go on Upkey's website. And I'm going to take you through this Gina module, and it's going to be one way for you to leverage some of the tools that we have created to become more competitive in your job search, to showcase your professional brand a little bit better, to create new networks and build your social capital in a different way. So please ask any questions while I go and demo that. Any questions? How many of you on this call are familiar with Upkey? And how many of you on this call right now as I'm talking gets what I'm talking about, can see some impact, can think about how they can start using that concept to create a holistic approach to their career development? How many of you? I just want a little bit of interaction so that I know that you guys are still with me, okay? Trust me, I don't like talking, and if you give me the room to talk, I'm just gonna go. So, oh, Deshaun knows about Upkey. Who else? Who doesn't know about Upkey? My Eureka friends. All right, so hey, we gotta engage. I love when people engage, and when you're talking about building your social capital, building a professional brand, then this is a way to do it, right? You never know the impact that I may have, or who I may know, or what I can help you with. So just interact. It's going to become a nice practice session for you so that when you're going out there, you can leverage that experience for yourself. All right. Now I'm just gonna go open up upkey.com and share my screen again. Looks like we have a question. All right. So Danielle Williams says, how can you keep a good composure while in the workplace? All right. Thank you, Danielle, for this question. So one of the things that you want to do when you're in the workplace, number one, is to, even before you go into a workplace, you have to make a choice to go into a workplace, not only for financial reasons. You have to think about the environment. You have to think about the culture. You have to like the people that you work with. If not, it's going to be miserable for you. And if you think about all of those things holistically, can that organization help you? Can your bosses help you? And if all of that is true, then it gives you a pretty good place to start, because you know that they trust you and you trust them to be honest with you, to give you feedbacks. And with that in mind, it is easier to express yourself. It's easier to go and walk up to someone that you don't agree with on a certain issue and tell them why you don't agree with that. Of course, you want to do that respectfully. But if that does not hold true, then you're going to understand that you're always going to be tensed up in your working environment. You're always going to be tensed up when you're talking to your boss. And that is not a good working environment for you in the first place. So I'll first of all start by saying that. Now, in terms of keeping good composures, one of the best things and advices that my mentor gave to me is listen more, talk less, except when necessary. And most often you see that when people become confrontational, they become agitated. And when you become agitated, you become your ecosystem, your zen, your chi, as I used to like to use that word, becomes unbalanced. And because of that nature of that unbalanced environment, then you can do impulsive things. So the first thing is listen. Is it an environment that you want to be in? Are the people there, are they trustworthy for you to walk up to when you have a question, when you have an issue at hand? And I think that when you listen and when you are honest with people and you are genuine, then the environment becomes much easier for you to feel comfortable in. All right, Danielle, I hope that answers your question. That's my angle to answer that question. I want to make sure I can go to other questions and also showcase the demo for you guys. All right, now let me share my screen. And I want to make sure I respect the time to be on time for you guys, because I know you guys have been on for a minute. Fadmira, thank you so much for checking us out and for sharing our values, all right? Okay, so we're in the process of revamping our website. So this is actually a pretty cool website, but we're in the process of doing a complete overhaul. So, we are such a mission-driven company that we do everything with students at heart, with students in mind, and students at the center of our design thinking process. So we always ensure that as we build tools, as we develop new initiative, it's all to make sure that students can become more prepared, more polished, more confident to go and rock. And one of the things that we do is we have this resume tool that's called SAM. SAM is going to help you customize your resume and show prospective employers why you are the best candidate for a job. And one of the things that we make sure that our suite of tools do is it presents a student holistically. And I want you to take care of that word holistically, right? When you think about how students or most professionals or even companies approach hiring or interviewing, it is very, narrow-minded. It's about your resume. It's about what your resume tells them. It's about the school you go to sometimes. It's about the GPA you have. And all those things fundamentally are not correct. Because you may be looking at a student that goes to someone like myself. I went to Concordia, and if I wanted to work for a Big Four consulting company, guess what? I wasn't part of their fit schools. Therefore, they did not recruit at Concordia. I don't have a network that can help me get in front of the recruiting manager, maybe like a Bain or a McKinsey. I didn't have all those things that for them tick their boxes. But what about my skill sets? What about my ability to be able to get the job done? What about my enthusiasm for helping other businesses? What about the skill sets that I brought to the table? All of those are not measured. They're not even looked at. And truly, I may be that individual that's going to come to that company and give them my all. But because they can't see that, because they cannot look at me holistically, therefore I'm not good for that job. Therefore I can be accepted. Therefore my resume cannot even go through the ATS system. Or maybe because I'm not able to create a resume that can beat application tracking systems, that automatically discounts me for being qualified for the job. And the goal at UpKey is to ensure that we can give you the tools to start you on that journey. But you have to make sure that you play your own part in getting yourself to your destination. And Gina is one of the tools, one of my favorite tools, and probably a tool I'm going to demo today. I don't know if you've seen this, window is closing out. So Gina is one of my favorite tools and probably the tool I'm going to demo today. And I hope that everyone here is familiar with the concept of an elevator pitch. So when you have your resume, when you have created a resume and you sent it out to a company and apply for a job, what next? What do? Do you just sit back and relax? Do you apply to just keep applying to 500 jobs because you think the more jobs you apply to, the better your chances? I think that's very wrong. It's about leveraging other things that can make you stand out. And Gina is a tool to do that. So I'm going to go and demo you Gina. And please, if you have any questions, let me know. So, okay, I need to create a new, it looks like my default account. So I need to sign out here and start now. I'm gonna start a new account for you today, and you can do this yourself. It's totally free for all ACI students, so you don't have to worry about paying. So just know that as you think about utilizing any of our tools. So I'm gonna start with John ACI. So the registration process is pretty straightforward. Nope. Okay, all right, then now this is, all right, let me start something new. So I have to register that, and of course I don't have access to that email. So let's see. See if I can use this. All right, let's see. This image already taken. Give me a second here. Let me try that out. Do you have any question? I'm an Aurora University student. Is there UpKey? Yes, UpKey is free for you. Let me see. Okay, this worked. Let me press to confirm. Give me a second here. Be patient with me, please. All right, I have it now. So sorry for that. All right, so when you log into UpKey, you're gonna have, this is the Gina track. So you're going to be prompted to, if you wanna start with a resume product, you can meet Sam and build your resume. Can you guys see and hear me clearly? I believe so.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Awesome. And if you have a resume, let's say if you're a college senior and you want to just dive into the pitch track and create your elevator pitch, then you can do so through this link here. One of the things that I want to just highlight is with Sam, we have two tracks. We have a pre-collegiate and a collegiate track. And Sam is a perfect tool for freshmen and sophomores. And by the time you are a junior and senior, you probably have a good resume, right? So you probably don't need to start from scratch to create a resume. That's why we give you the ability to just upload your resume here, and we are really doing like a complete revamp of everything. It's going to be much better. And you can also just, you don't want to upload one, you can just click this and get started. All right, so let me test the sound. If you can hear the sound, let me know, because sometimes when I have my AirPods, they don't, you cannot hear it. Did you guys hear that?
Mm-mm.
All right, so I think I got to take my AirPods off.
Is this thing on? Testing 1, 2, 3. It's Gina here, ready to go.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so it's on.
Hey, it's Gina. Let's work on your pitch.
So, Gina is a very short module that helps you with your pitch. Again, when you talk about, building your professional brand, thinking about approaching people on LinkedIn or building that network or building social capital, we in a virtual way, people are bombarded. When I mean bombarded with information. So you want to make sure that when you're reaching out to someone, you stand out, right? When you're reaching out to someone that can help you, you do so differently, because people don't only remember you for what you tell them, but for how you make them feel. So if you make sure that someone feels like they're important, and that's a quote from Maya Angelou, by the way, then you are going to stand out. When you're reaching out to someone after an interview and you're trying to, and I'm going to talk about the utility of Gina, how do you reach out to them? Do you even follow up with someone when you go and interview with them? When you're trying to send someone a connection on LinkedIn to build that social capital, to build that network, how do you do that? Do you do so the way everyone does it, or do you do it differently? My goal here is to give you a way to do it differently.
First, a quick introduction. Check out some examples below and write one for yourself.
So I'm just going to copy and paste this. The first thing Gina asks you is, talk a little bit about yourself, and some of the prompts that we give you here are already also generated from the information that you're going to pre-fill. So don't feel like you can't delete it. You can also delete it and add anything that you want here. All right. So
great. All right. I want to help you record your intro, but let me go first. Hi, I'm Gina. I've studied communications and I love helping students and spreading confidence. Oh, let me show you more examples from our team.
Again, we are in a virtual world, and the world produces millions, even billions of gigabytes of information every day, and it's just transmitted through the web. And we are so fatigued with content, and especially in this Zoom age, in this WebEx age, in this virtual working age, people are tired of just looking at someone on the screen because they miss that in-person interaction. But the truth of the matter is, even if we go back to whatever the new normal is going to be, because the new normal is not going to be like the old normal, because the economy has just been, destroyed. This is going to be a long process for it to be restored. A lot of companies are going remote. So the idea of remote working is just getting started. The idea of remote interviewing is just getting started. So companies have no choice because it's more effective for them. It's more cost effective for them to interview someone remotely versus spend all the money as we used to do traditionally, where you have to pay for someone's hotel, pay for that flight. And now as a student, when you have even less opportunities for entry-level positions, how do you approach someone that gets bombarded with that much information and that doesn't want to be on a video call anymore, that doesn't want to watch another person talking to them? You got to do it differently. As a student, you got to represent your brand. You got to make sure it's more inviting. You got to make sure that it is more engaging. So what we want to help you with is to ensure that you become more comfortable being in front of a camera. when I started talking to people, when I started doing events, when I started my public speaking career, I was scared, guys. I remember the first time I did a workshop at Concordia, and it was for the MBA Student Association. I trembled, right? My feet were shaking. I had maybe like 6 cups of coffee before I went to that event. So it's not different from you. That may be how you're feeling right now, but guess what? That can change. And it's all going to be through practice, guys. It's all going to be through intentional work to ensure that you can build that skill. So let's watch a couple of intro from your peers.
Hi, my name is Juan Carlos. I'm currently studying finance, and I'm very passionate about networking, entrepreneurship, and collaboration. More specifically, synergy. I'm fascinated by the concept of 2 + 2 = 5.
Doesn't know about the concept, but I can tell you he's excited to make that video. All right. So now you're going to see that our interface is very dynamic, and we are trying to make it more dynamic as we keep building and improving on it. So the example is like, you want to introduce yourself, you want to start learning how to introduce yourself, maybe when you are going to go to a networking event, a virtual networking event, whatever that may be for you. We want to make sure that we help you with that. So again, making sure that we incorporate some video element to it. You're going to have this video interface here. It's kind of weird because you see me then, you see me here. So, record your video. And this is going to be the beginning of how you start practicing your own pitch. It's about becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, then it's going to be extremely hard for you to really ace and nail it. It's much better to start practicing on this type of environment and then sharing it with your friends, sharing it with your mentors before actually, sharing something to an employer that you really want. And again, if you love this, again, it's just the beginning. Click.
I love it too.
But after that, what's next? When you have introduced yourself, we want to make you understand your motivation. When you think about differentiating yourself with the competition out there, right? What makes you stand out? And I have mentioned the word holistically sometimes. It's not just about your resume, but it's about how you make someone feel. Are you relatable? Does someone really know and trust you enough to make you the better candidate or to take you over another candidate? And most often with entry-level positions, and I'm telling you this from experience because I've hired a ton of entry-level people in my short career as an entrepreneur. And what makes me, what just sets me off, it just gives me a cold and bad vibe is when an individual think that they know everything. You're an entry-level candidate, so I know I have to train you. I know you don't know everything. I know you are just beginning your development as a professional. So if you come with me with a perception of like, oh my God, I can do SEO for you, I can do this and that, like that is not what I want. I want someone that I would love working with. I want someone that I can trust that when we have a plan in place, they're going to go above and beyond to get the job done. And sometimes that comes with your own story. Where are you from? Make me understand that. Bring me into your world. Let me understand what makes you different outside of your resume from candidate A to candidate B. Because at the end of the day, that's your main differentiator. It is what is going to make you get up from bed in the morning. It's what is going to make you stay late at night to work when you don't have to. That is what I want. So let's see what Gina has to say.
It's time to talk more about your elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch is your passion, your goals, and your personality, all rolled into one short sentence. And of course, a good pitch can lead to interviews and job offers. Let's focus on the most important part of that pitch, your why. Your why is your driving force. The reason you jump out of bed in the morning and tackle new challenges. It's what motivates you to work every day and want to be better at what you do. You may not realize it yet, but everyone has that driving force, a personal list of reasons that motivate each and every one of us to achieve our goals.
Now, because of time, I'm going to try to rush over this. Cindy, can you tell me how much time I have, please? I know we started.
Let's see, sessions, so 15 more minutes.
15 more minutes? All right, so I'm going to try and rush over this. So.
Okay, let's make sure we're on the same page here.
All right, so now when you think about what motivates you, and again, you saw some of the examples, it had nothing to do with your resume. It had nothing to do with, oh, I have X, Y, and Z experience. I'm a digital marketer. None of that. It's about your personality. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. Think about yourself a little bit more holistically. That is what is going to differentiate you. It's not only going to be about your resume because you don't have it all, but it's about what you bring to the table that is going to make me know that you're going to give your all. That is what I'm looking for. That's what most employers are looking for. How do you portray yourself on social media? Now, if you don't understand what motivates you, we give you this prompts, right? I don't know why I'm motivated or what fires me up. You know, let's just pick this for fun and shit and giggles. Now we have this prompt here. Is there a memory or time in your life that when you think about it makes you want to do better or brings energy and motivation to you? And all we're trying to do is to try to make you think about what motivates you, because that's the core of who you are. It's not your skill sets. Skills can be trained. Skills can be trained, guys. But what is your core? That is what I'm looking for. Is your core relatable? Is your core something that I resonate with, that I know that you can be trained? Because skills can be trained. If you say no, we ask you another prompt. Is there or has there been a figure in your life that you see as a role model, someone that has characteristics that you admire or that you love and want to make you proud? Because the goal is you are influenced by the people around you. It could be your family, it could be primary or secondary, but sometimes those individuals influence you. And based on the influences that you have, it is going to form who you are. And is that something that I want in my organization? Is that something that is going to make me feel like you are going to come give your all? Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to skip through this.
I want you to take a few seconds to think about things that help you determine your why. Oh, and feel free. Great. Let's write down a few.
So again, when you think about what drives you, what motivates you, you have the prompt to write whatever that is. And continue. So we spoke about your introduction, your motivation, and then the next component of your story to make you holistic again is now credibility. You don't want to just discount the fact that, you know, if you're trying to apply for a marketing position and you are a finance student, now there is some, like it's worlds apart. So you want to make sure that with your story, it's in line with your education, or at least where you want to go to. So that's what the 1-2 punch is about. Now, what general and technical skills do you have? It's not to make you a better candidate, but it's to see if you have the fundamentals to get trained in. Play a little bit of this.
Okay, I want to share with you one of my secret weapons when it comes to your elevator pitch. The 1-2 punch. What is the 1-2 punch, you ask? It's where you highlight a couple of your general and technical skills during your personal pitch. That doesn't mean you have to summarize your entire resume. Instead, choose a relevant experience and use it to demonstrate skills you learned or improved on from that particular experience. To get started, pinpoint a recent project, internship, volunteer work, or activity that you led or played a part in. For your first punch, think about a general skill you learned or improved upon during this particular experience. General skills are things such as organization,
I'm going to pause here and just, walk through it. So general skills, you get what
Let's see if you can get this right.
General skills, think about organization, teamwork. Technical skills, of course, if you are a finance student, Excel, maybe a software like R for data analyst, or for digital marketers, maybe some AdWords, whatever that technical skill is for you. If you're a computer science student, it's all technical skill oriented. So if you combine those two things together, it showcases some credibility. Not that you are a genius, but that you can be trained in that skill and become more proficient at it. So if you put those two things together, it creates a little bit more credibility. So let's see, for fun here.
You got it.
Unfortunately, I just picked the right answer. Presenter, that's a soft skill, a general skill, because presenting is soft, and Excel is more technical, right? So you put those two things together, then it creates a credible.
I'm gonna try to make it hard.
Credible bullet or perception in your employee's mind. And why is it important? I'm just gonna go through this.
You
Builds
got
credibility.
it. Now let's think of an experience or an activity where you picked up a couple of skills. This is what we're going to use to demonstrate your 1-2 punch.
Just gonna go here and just write.
Fantastic. Great job so far. Here's the skeleton of your pitch.
Again, you see
Take a few seconds and make any edits you like.
It's all coming together. You can write more, you can edit, you can delete things here, or you can write that I'm just gonna rush through this.
Good.
Because you did the
Congrats. Let's work on the ending of your pitch. Here's a hot tip for you. A strong ending includes a polite and humble thank you, as well as a specific ask.
All right, and this is the last part. So you see that it was divided into 4 parts. Introduce yourself, your story, some credibility component, and then now the ending to that entire experience for the listener. And the reason why having a good ending is important is because when you think about most students, when they walk up to someone in the old days doing, career fairs, when they have to walk up to that booth, do they really say what they want, exactly what they want in the timeline that is appropriate to the employee from the company? Do you really have an ask? When you go to a networking event, do you really tell the individual what you really want, plain, clear, and simple? Salespeople know how to do that, but most individuals, not only students, don't really do that. They go and they're so generous, so they just spill everything out there, but they don't have a specific ask. So the goal here is to ensure that you have a specific ask. Make sure whatever you do, if there is an ask to
Awesome.
it,
Now let's create one together.
that ask. Make that ask. Okay, I'm just going to continue here.
Well done.
Because of time.
Yes, your pitch is coming together nicely. Congrats.
So again, then this is another interface that you use to practice. Again, practice is key. Practice is important. You cannot become good at this without practicing. You cannot become a good interviewer or interviewee without practicing. You have to practice, and we have this interface to help you practice. Right now, the video is recording, and I'm going to stop the video. But the more you practice, the more you're going to become better at it. So that when you're sharing this video with your peers, with your mentors, advisors, whatever, right? They're going to give you feedback so you can come and practice to become better at what you're doing. So we make sure that you have this tool to help you with the practice. So let's see how long it's going to take for this. I'm on Zoom and doing this, so the bandwidth is kind of compressed a little bit. So just be patient here and give some time. I know we are running up to the session soon.
I love it too.
So you are going to go to your dashboard, and voila. So this dashboard, you're able to, when you have a good pitch, when you're comfortable with your pitch, talking about utility, you can then, if you're trying to look for a mentor, and one of the things you can do is you can have multiple pitches here, but also customize your pitch to who you want it to be. So if you were trying to send a pitch to a mentor, you want a pitch to be an ask for mentorship. And all you got to do is copy that link and send this to someone that you want to send it to. And all they're going to do is they're going to see your pitch video. And we did a preliminary study, and we saw a great, rate of response with students that use a pitch when they are applying for a job, they're trying to reach out to an interviewer, post interviewing, but also students that are trying to build social network and reach out to people that can mentor them on LinkedIn. We realized that the pitch gave a much better response than a code request, because now you're able to put yourself there, you're able to build trust, build connections, be real, and people find it more comforting and they find it less invasive. So I want you to think about that and make sure that you can utilize this. So one of the things that you can also see on this dashboard is you can go here, access most of the courses that we're going to, the tools that we're going to be having. This interface is going to be changing completely soon. And we have this website thing that if you go through it, you're going to create a website, a digital website. It's going to be changed. Again, it's going to be made better in a couple of weeks. We have a new launch that's coming by the end of the year, and you're going to see a ton of cool tools that we have installed for our users. So again, if you want to go and do the resume track, you can go here and do that. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the presentation and try to rush through the rest of the slide as fast as I can. But also, if you have a question, please just start dropping them in the QA section so that I can get to them when the time is right. So talking about the last part of of this presentation is how do you show up? Now you've sent all of that. How do you show up in that when someone is watching that video? How do you show up when you are on a platform like LinkedIn and you're trying to build your social capital, you're trying to build your network? How do you show up when you're going to an interview? How do you show up? That is extremely important. And I just highlighted 5 items there. There could be more that I feel are important that you use when you're showing up. And the first one is kind of simplistic and kind of funny. Be human. What do you mean by that? Now, think about it. When you are going to an interview, when you are going to approach someone on LinkedIn, or you're trying to look for that connection or trying to look for that mentor, how are you approaching that individual? They don't know you. They don't trust you. They don't want that because they are bombarded. I'm sure if you find that person useful, that they can impact you, many other people are doing the same thing. So why is the first one important? Be human. It's like, you got to be yourself. You should not put up a front. If someone really wants to help you, they should help you for who you are. And people can actually see through pretense. When you're showing up on LinkedIn, are you showing up there to have a transactional relationship, or are you showing there to have a meaningful relationship with people? Are you showing up there to try to build meaningful connection, or just trying to get a job? Because if you do the latter, you're going to end up being disappointed. Confidence is key too. As you're showing up and trying to be human, how can you portray your confidence? It may be hard for some of you, but if you can get the help, if you can get the practice, and I think that the confidence is just going to show. It's just going to go out. It's going to ooze out of your body. It's going to be something that when an interviewer talks to you, they're like, this kid is confident. I want them to be working for me. And you cannot be confident without being prepared. You cannot be confident without being prepared. Talking about creating a video pitch, talking about learning how to network better, talking about building social capital, talking about reaching out to people from cold emails or cold LinkedIn requests or connection requests. Are you prepared? Did you do your research? Do you know what you want from them? Or are you just doing it because it's something that you think you should do? And if you're trying to go and apply for a company and trying to go for an interview, and the lady asking the question about how to be comfortable, how to be less anxious at work, did you understand the company's value? Is that a place that you want to be at? Is that a place? Are there people you want to work with? Do you think they can impact you to get to your goals 3 to 5 years from now? If they can't, you gotta ask yourself a question: is it worth it? Is that money worth it? And with all the above, practice, be holistic, showcase your difference by being holistic. And there is no better teaching life than experience and practicing. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here with me today. Thank you for ACI for hosting this event, and I'm happy to answer any question. And my goal here today is to give you some tools, some resources that can impact your life, can impact your job search. So please, if there are any questions, you can answer them right now. By the way, I see some questions. Leslie, I don't know if you wanted to say something. You came on briefly. Was it Leslie or Cindy?
I think it was me. I was going to point out that Deshaun and then Danielle had some questions. I think Deshaun had a question regarding of who can join Upkey.
Okay. In regards to the question about is Upkey on free? Yes. So students can reach out to Upkey for free. In the near future, we're going to be making it free for just our partners. So right now, ACI and our partner universities can use it for free. So you can share it with your friends. And also there's a VIP program that I didn't have the chance to talk about, but you can go to the website and see that. Danielle Williams, are you a graphic designer? If so, are there any tips you can give on becoming better? I'm not a graphic designer, and if that was because my slides were cool, thank you. I'm just trying to take, I'm going to assume that's because of it. So, I work with a lot of designers, so I have a ton of designers on my team, and we work very closely. And one of the things that I can say that I see from them is that I see that when you do a lot of like freelance work, when you try to just practice, even if it's free, if you have someone in your organization or someone in your community or even in your university that you can help them with design work and just start practicing and using softwares like Adobe or InDesign, whatever that designers use these days, then the more you practice, the better you are at it. And also, is there someone that you see their work that you really admire? Can you learn about them? Can you ask them to help you? and can you ask them to give you feedback? So I said, as someone who's not in that design space, I would say that practice and reaching out to people is important. And I know some very, very good designers that I can connect you with, just so that they can help mentor you too. So feel free to reach out to me, Danielle.
Emmanuel, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I wanted to point out that Nancy Arneson talked a little bit about how you can use LinkedIn to search for people who have jobs that you're interested in or working at companies that you're interested in. And now Emmanuel has talked to you about that being a part of how you build social networking, and how you might present yourself to connect with people, not necessarily because you're saying, hello, I want a job with you, but because you're building social capital and networking, and ultimately that can pay off.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree. People don't really understand the impact that building your social network, because when you think about, access, you only think about sometimes, financial access, or you think about, other types of access. But again, the ability for you to build meaningful network that can be there for you when you need it is extremely important. And that's actually more valuable than any financial resource that you can have sometimes in life. So.
Okay, we're going to be taking a break now until 1:30, when actually Emmanuel will be back with us for our panel on that we're calling Becoming. And we hope you'll all be back to join with us after you take a little break. Thank you.
Thanks.
ever student-run business organization undergrad, and grew that from nothing to something, and now it's growing like crazy. And eventually took what I learned from high school, going into college, into my career. And going into college, I realized I had no idea what I wanted to do, and someone told me going to college was important. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to these older folks because they seem like they have a good head on their shoulders. So knowing that I wanted to help people, put smiles on people's faces, and knowing that financial stress was a big thing for a lot of the folks around me, and the people that they care about and the people I care about. I wanted to take that financial stress off of people's shoulders. So I decided to go into the financial advising, financial literacy world and teach people about opportunities out there and opportunities that a lot of people have no idea about. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm loving it. I'm over at Northwestern Mutual. I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm excited to be here.
Thank
Yeah.
you. All right, Denzel, you are up next.
Hi. So I am also a first generation college student as well. I'm from Freeport, Illinois. So in my hometown, grew up in a very harsh community and a very harsh environment. So I really wasn't around a lot of African Americans or any diversity people. Although they were there, I just, at the time in high school before I got to college, there wasn't enough inspiration for me to drive forward. So going to college, even graduating from high school, I always felt like there was this pressure that I had because I'm basically the first one to do it. Even first generation to even go to grad school and complete it through a master's and also completing a PhD level. And I know from my family and my immediate family, they just didn't want me to do the same thing that they have done. They always try to push us and my siblings to do more. So I think that kind of pushed me just a little bit more and kind of inspire me more to actually do something for my life and just not do anything from my dad always told me don't be in the streets, don't do any of that, just do anything and make yourself an honest living. So now I'm in grad school and here I am trying to thrive.
Nice. Thank you, Denzel. Okay, we're gonna go next to Cindy. You wanna go ahead and give us an introduction and share your first-gen story as well?
Yeah, of course. So some of you guys already seen me before. I work at ACI now, but I also was the first generation to go to college. It was a little bit more not more interesting. I don't want to take away from my panelist story, but I'm actually a twin. So me and my sister were going through that experience at that same time. So I wasn't completely alone. It was just me and somebody else who had the same amount of knowledge as us. We were kind of going through it together. So we would, figure it out, try to fill out FAFSA. It's only me and her. My parents had never figured it out, couldn't. They gave me the information I needed, but it was kind of just like, okay, here you go. And then it was just two 18-year-olds trying to figure it out together as best we could. But I went to Augustana. Me and Denzel actually went to school together. We were pretty much best friends. And so we both graduated 2017. And then I spent a year. I originally was going to go directly into graduate school. But there are some finance issues that occurred, so I ended up not going. So I worked for a year full time, and then I re-enrolled into another grad program that had nothing to do with what I originally planned to do. But that year and talking to people and trying to figure out what I wanted to do really helped. So it was kind of unconventional, but graduate school sometimes you have to be really sure about the program you're going into because everything is gonna all your classes are going to be extremely focused on one subject. So it's good to take a little break. And so for me, that's what it was. And eventually I landed here at ACI. So it's great to go, and it'll be good to see and how we'll be able to talk to help all you guys to see, a bunch of young panelists we're basically in the same shoes that you guys were in.
Yep, absolutely. So let's start right there with how either your first generation status, your low income status, or being a person of color status has shifted, shaped your experience as you transition into the career path that you have chosen. And whoever wants to take a stab at that first.
Yeah, I could go.
Okay.
So growing up, I always played sports. My main sport was basketball, and being Latino, I was always like seen as the underdog in a sense, even though I never felt it, and I always felt better than the people I was playing against, in my head at least. So I always had like that chip on my shoulder, and going into high school or education-wise, it always came naturally to me, and I was just like, okay, this is just another thing that I got to get through, and I got to try my absolute hardest, whatever that looks like. So I felt like being a first generation student and being a student of color, being an athlete, I wasn't letting it define me. I knew it was me and in the back of my head, and this is who I was, but I still, no matter what, it's kind of like my motivation in a sense. And I always pushed myself to be the absolute best person that I could be, and like just making my family proud is how that defined me.
Okay. Thank you, George.
And I can add there.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things before I even moved to the US, the whole concept of first generation was not something that I was familiar with, because in Cameroon, it's normal for most families, let's say, over the last 20 years, for the students that are going to college are first generation, right? So to me, that was like just the norm. And it was also because of a couple of things that I want to go into, talking about the history, the dictatorial history of Cameroon. But when I moved to the United States, one of the things that I immediately saw as my differentiator, something that kept me going, was the fact that I came from nothing. I didn't come from privilege. My grandmother, they had to work extremely hard. My grandmother, she was a farmer. She went to the farm, and she was a peasant farmer, not even like a commercial farmer. So she had to go to the farm. She had to do everything to ensure that my mom could go to high school. And when my mother went to high school, she was not able to continue college because she couldn't, number one, couldn't afford it. But number two, back in the days, women were not given that opportunity to go to college. The parents were like, okay, yeah, woman, you need to probably go get married, etc. So she found a way to get into, we call it corporate Cameroon. She worked for one of the largest banks in Central Africa, just by the pure virtue of her wanting to get things done, and she didn't want to fall in that stereotype. And she was able to do that without having a college degree. So she went into senior leadership just by sheer determination, hard work, and growing up in that type of environment. A couple of things that you get to see is, you get to see that woman, and my dad died when I was still young, so you get to see that figurehead just being the provider and helping so many other people and putting herself last all the time. To me, that molded the man that I am today. And when I moved to the States, one of the things that I knew I had to do was, number one, traveling here was extremely expensive, and I had to come to grad school. I had to pay everything out of pocket. So the sacrifices that my parents made, the sacrifices that I made, the debt that I knew I was going into, I had just one option, and the option was to succeed. And I made sure that anything and everything that I did was towards a goal, was towards making sure that when I can go back and like look at my mom and all the sacrifices that she has made and putting herself second, is she's gonna be proud of it. But also, how can I impact my community? Because I'm such a community forward oriented individual. So thinking about how can I impact other people that may not have the opportunity that I had, or at least the strength, the will strength that I had. So for me, it's extremely important that I stay extremely true to my roots and ensuring that impact and the impact that I can have is not only centered around giving back to people that are from the Cameroonian community, but from students that have been disenfranchised and have not had access to opportunities. Because as I said earlier, everyone can be trained, but is the opportunity that accessible and available to everybody. So how can I play a role to ensure that tomorrow I can help way many more students succeed and help others? I think that's the way that I feel change is going to impact the community at large. And I'm happy and grateful that I'm in the position to do what I'm doing today.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Anyone else have anything else to add?
Yes.
Okay.
I think for me, going back again about inspiration and finding inspiration. During high school and when I was applying for applications to go to college, you know, everyone in my class is doing the same thing. So I'm thinking like, oh, this must be like what everyone else is doing, applying for college, trying to chase their dreams and like, you know, find a future career. And at that time, there was like a few careers like I had in mind. And I know sometimes when you go to undergrad, you know, sometimes that change because you have something else on your mind. So going to Augustana College and not seeing a lot of Black students or people that look like me or really just in diversity kind of put me in like a little culture shock because I'm coming into the school thinking that, oh, I'm gonna see like a lot of diversity students. I won't be the only one that's like a Black person going to college. And then once like I saw that, that's kind of where I kind of felt this a little bit of pressure. Not like that's like inhibiting my success, but I just feel that everyone's watching me. So I don't want to like, you know, let them down and I don't want to like fail. So that's where like all that like deep pressure, and especially coming from my family, since I am the first generation, like I want to be like that stepping stone. And I'm blessed that I am now because now my two nieces are going to college and they graduate next year. So I was glad that I was a stepping stone for my family because in all honesty, I thought I was going to be the only one graduate from college and go to grad school and all of that. Like I didn't like expect any other family or either immediate family. And then inspired my dad. He finished and got his GED. So like that just kind of like, you know, motivated me to even continue to go to school and like continue like after undergrad. So my biggest story is really just finding that inspiration and um, doing that, you inspire others, which I didn't realize I was inspiring my family until they were trying to do the same thing I was doing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm like, and I like just got like, you know, all happy and giggly because I never thought that my parents would even like try to go to school. I know my mom, my dad like talk about it, but you know, I just told myself like, oh, they're probably not going to. Then he did. Now they both have the GEDs. So a
Nice.
proud moment.
You are definitely setting the tone for your family. All right. So some of you have started to kind of hit on this a little bit already, but how did you take ownership of your identity while you were in college or after you graduated? And what strategies do you have for the other first generation students on managing that as you transition into the professional setting?
Yeah, I can touch on that. For me, it kind of was I kind of already had like a sense of identity going into college. You know, I was first generation, specifically my parents are from Central America. So I had like, and then the high school that I went to was pretty diverse. So it was kind of 50-50. It was like 50 of a mixed bucket of everybody, and then it was like 50% white. And then I went to Augustana, which is a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution. And, all of a sudden, in some classes, I was like the only person of color. So like Denzel said, like, it's kind of a culture shock. And so one of the things that really helped, that I'm pretty sure almost all of our institutions, or if they don't, it's pretty easy to do. There's like all the identity groups that schools have. So, Denzel and I, we were part of multiple identity groups that were on campus. So my freshman year, I joined the Black Student Union and I joined the Latinx Unidos club. And so it really helps to have that group, because either in that group, either almost everybody is either identifies with that or is an ally to that group, or it wants to be an ally. So for instance, I went to Latinos Unidos because I was Latina, but at the same time, I was part of BSU all 4 years because at the same time, that was a group that I felt comfortable with. And a lot of my friends were Black and were part of BSU. So they're like, oh, it's Wednesday, 6 o'clock. We have to go to BSU. So I was like, okay, I'll go too. So it really exposes you to those other different groups. And so while at the same time, when you're in college, it's kind of your identity will change. Don't feel pressure that you need to know everything about yourself. College is there for you to explore not only your academic side, but also you get to know who you are. And you really won't get to know who you are unless you have certain experiences. And so that's what college is for. And so I think having that identity, it really, for me, I know some students struggle with it, but also I know probably most institutions we had what we had was like first year orientation, but specifically for multicultural students. So we had, all first gen students who went into orientation together who wanted to participate. It was under our diversity office. So having that group of students who at some point or another, we all share the same experiences, all of us are first gen, low income, or a student of color. So having that there, it really helps because, everyone is going through the same thing. You're going as a group because the one thing you don't want to do is go through this thing that you might be going through for the first time and then feel like you're alone. It's very easily can happen that you feel like you're alone, but in actuality, there's a lot of people who are going through the same thing. So finding that niche group of students who can relate to you, who can vent with you, you want to vent to someone who knows what you're going through. Because that's just talking to a wall. If you're talking to someone who can't share the same experiences as you. So having that group of students that you really connect to, either with your identity or just your shared experiences, I think it's really important to do through college. And even finding professional staff members who also do that. It's helpful to talk to someone who's now like a staff member at that institution who either went through that same thing or is able to go through that same thing or talk to you about it. So I think that's one of the things that I would say was very helpful to do.
Okay, thank you, Sydney, for that. Does anyone have anything else to add?
George, want to go?
Yeah. Could you repeat the question? I have
Yeah.
the answer. I just want to make sure I'm answering.
Absolutely. What did you do to take ownership of your identity, either in college or after you graduated, and how did that help you in the professional setting?
Yeah, so how I would answer that is definitely 100% leverage it, and like take advantage of it. Being a first generation, if student of color, if first generation of color, because when I meet new people and I'm meeting new people on a daily basis and talking to new people, if they tell me they're a first generation college student, I get beyond hyped. Yeah. And I'm like, man, we're family now. This is awesome. I feel like I know you already. But yeah, when I hear that and like even leveraging it in interviews and reminding people, like, look, I've been through some obstacles. I could get over these obstacles. I'm strong. I'm determined. I'm the perfect person that is going to fill the role that you need to be in. Because as soon as I hear that, I'm like, okay, we could connect. I know you've been through some things and I've been through some things too. And that's awesome. So that's what I would.
Can I add something?
Yes, please do, Emmanuel.
Yeah, and so I would share two very quick stories, and trust me, I can go on end sometimes. So just shut me up, say, hey man, you're talking too much, and I will shut up. So there are two ways that I have seen this like impacted me. And number one is like my social cultural identity. And I tend to separate that with my professional identity, but also make sure like those two things are true to each other. And this is why the first time that I went to Concordia, I went to a networking event, and it was literally my second or third day on campus. And one of the things that I found out was, number one, I was dressed differently because I had like my traditional attire on. Because back home, if you're going into like a formal event, you want like make sure that you dress traditionally to represent your culture. And everybody was super casual. And I was like, is this not appropriate? Should I not wear this my traditional, attire and represent my culture? That was the first thing. The other thing was, it's a lot of cheese. I didn't grow up eating cheese, and the food was different. And I had to like, what is this? Should I eat? Should I not eat this? Should I just pretend to eat this, even if I don't like it? And a lot of people, code switch a lot. And the other thing was my accent. I had a terribly heavy accent. I'm like, oh my God, should I not talk? Because people were like, what are you saying? Well, then the next question is like, where are you from? And all of those things, sometimes when I can't lie to you, it put me back in my shell. And what happened, like I defaulted to be in my bubble. And in class, I was, I wouldn't talk because someone's gonna like, what do you say? And that I was like, but there was a point that came where I realized that I was not happy just, encapsulating my thoughts and my perspective. And another story to share, and I'm going to bring all of this to home, is the community that I'm from, be it for good or bad. Entrepreneurship is not something that's very much celebrated because you have this whole philosophy of, you need to take care of your family, you need to go work, do what you got to do. And as you all know on this call, entrepreneurship is nothing that's stable. There is no certainty with it. So when you start and work for a startup, you don't get paid, guys, right? Forget about the 2 million, the 10 million, everything goes back to the business to build the business. So you really don't get paid. And you're left with that, dilemma where your friends say, oh, you work for this company, you just help raise this money. Why are you not sending money back home? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Why are you going to something that everybody else doesn't go to? And for me, when I look at my professional journey, where I want to go to, that's true for me. When I look at my culture and where I'm from, that's my reality. That's where I'm from. And that is going to shape where I want to go to. So what I always try to do is to ensure that my roots never get diluted. And of course, I want to improve. I want to become a better individual. But that for no 1 second means that I have to say, oh no, you know what? I want to try and change my accent because I don't want someone to ask me where you're from. Like, part of my language, screw them. And if you don't want to be with me, if you don't want to see the value that I bring to the table, then I don't want to be with you. And in my professional journey, I have always said, and that's always been true to me, whenever I go out and want to form any new partnership with any new university or with any new enterprise, if you look at my accent, if you hear that I'm from Cameroon and that is a proxy for you to evaluate if you want to be in business with me, then by the way, I don't want to be in business with you. So you are going to face so many adversities in life where people are going to give you like a side nod where you don't feel comfortable because of you expressing your identity. What you have to understand is like your mode of thinking is unique to you and it should be valued. And if someone doesn't appreciate that, then too bad for them.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so some of you have, touched on this a little bit, but there are a lot of professional norms that I believe first generation students are not privy to prior to leaving the institutions all the time. Sometimes our career services departments touch on some of these things, and sometimes depending on your profession, there are other norms that you don't know until you get there. So what advice do you have for first generation students as they try to figure out what are the professional norms for their area? What was your strategy for figuring that out? Did that take place in college, or did you learn more about that after you entered your profession, and kind of how would you suggest going about that?
I think maybe just like very basic when it comes to maybe even just attire. One of the things, it's very difficult to kind of gauge, and they'll tell you when you go into an interview, you'll always dress up. But when it comes to when you like first day at the office, my kind of thing to do is if you're kind of, first of all, they'll probably give you a certain definition: business casual, business professional. Just Google it. Go on Pinterest, type it in. A bunch of things will pop up. But even then, if you feel uncomfortable, always dress as when you feel comfortable. Because if you're dressed in a way that makes you uncomfortable, it's gonna show. Like your body language, it's just gonna show that. But just for the first week, kind of play it safe. And then look at what other people are doing. If people who have been there longer, is it okay to wear tennis shoes? Perhaps if it's like a solid color, are people a little bit more casual than perhaps? And so I think that's one of the same things. When somebody, I forgot who it was talking about code switching. If you're not familiar with the term, you're probably familiar with the practice. How you talk to a professor is not the same as how you talk to a fellow, a peer or a colleague. So that's kind of code switching, having that change in either your language, how you talk to them, anything like that. So I think that'll be also important in the environment that you go into. But I think especially for young women or people who identify as female who go into their career choices, it's just be comfortable with how you are. I think Leslie told this story. If you're not comfortable wearing makeup, don't wear it. Because I think someone told a story that they felt pressured to wear makeup, and then they found out they were allergic to it, so they were like swollen. And so if you're not comfortable, just don't do it. Don't feel pressured by society or anything like that to adhere to a certain mold. Just be comfortable in like the skin that you're in. They hired you, they want you there. I think that's one of the things that people forget is like you were the one they picked out of the whole pool of candidates. So you are the one, you have the skills, you excelled. And so I think it's just one of those things to not kind of that imposter syndrome that a lot of first generation students might go through, like, oh, maybe it was a mistake that they hired me. Like, no, it wasn't. You're more than qualified. So I think that's one of the things to remember, especially if you go into a corporate world. I think it's like that pressure. So I think just being confident in oneself and your skill, and then kind of just eyeballing other people and see how they're doing and how do they interact with others and stuff like that. I think that would help a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else to add to that?
I'd like to add a little bit to it. Similar to Cindy's, what she has said overall, especially watching others. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, because that can really make a difference, especially when I was trying to learn etiquette, like the business casual, and like, what to dress or like how to dress. I'm always like, scanning the room. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's like how I'm supposed to dress. And another thing, I think that kind of gets not just students, but people in general, is like failures and success. I know sometimes when we don't do something right, because I know me personally, I'm always trying to do at least most things right, or going towards like perfection, even though obviously we're not all perfect. But also use failures as a stepping stone to success. I think that's one of the things that sometimes we miss, and sometimes that can manifest in like a lot of like different ways. And then like, when you analyze it, you think like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad that I made these mistakes, because now moving forward, then I can do better. And just being around by other diversity students and professors and faculty like really like helped me to know like pretty much literally anything, even like what we were discussing the last question, like just like finding like a solid group of people that can like give you advice and lead you, because I really didn't have that in undergrad. I kind of like had to somewhat find it. But the Latinx Unidos and BSU was part of like the biggest like stepping stones. And then that just kind of have me like flourish and gave me all kinds of resources and advice.
Thank you, Denzel. So I want to open the floor to the students who are watching and listening. Do you all have any questions for the panelists? And is it gonna, will it pop up in my chat?
You're on mute.
Open. Yeah, I realized. Thank you. So I have the chat open, but it should pop up even if you just press on the chat button. It should, and then you can also use the Q&A function.
Okay. All right. It looks like we have one. Someone has requested contact information. Leslie or Cindy, will there be a space where the panelists will have their contact information public for folks who want to network? There's a special request for Emmanuel right now.
Yeah, we had not thought to do that, but if anyone wants to get in touch with any of the speakers, they can email Cindy and she can make arrangements for it. And she's just, it's easy, C Morales, MORALES at acifund.org.
And I'll type it in the chat box. I can send you guys I'm assuming Emmanuel, Jorge, Denzel, we're all okay with if a student's asking for an email.
Okay.
We do have,
okay, perfect. Thank you. We do have a question. Was it hard to stay motivated even though you were doing something that no one in your family has done? Very good question.
I can
go ahead, Denzel.
On that. Yes. A lot of times throughout undergrad and even me going to grad school, pursuing my doctorate. And I didn't, at first, I thought it was so abnormal for that, but that's pretty much a normal thing to always happen. I know for me, there's at times where I have like no motivation. There's at times where don't do it often now because I'm at a comfortable position of like what I want to do for my careers. But there's at times where I just don't want to do anything. Like I'm not motivated whatsoever. So sometimes like, I'll just like, go walk outside. Sometimes even on social media or on Facebook or Instagram, or I read a book, and sometimes that gives me like motivation and gives me more reason why I'm doing this career to begin with. I know a lot of us sometimes can get like boggled down and like, we start questioning ourselves. But once you find those aspirations and inspirations, and what's nice about that is that sometimes you don't have to come looking for it, like it will come find you. And that was such a big experience for me until like I got to grad school, because I always trying to look for the inspiration. And then there was, many stories, but there's been times where like it actually like came to me, like it just like came directly to my face, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I have the purpose. Now that kind of gives me motivation. I also see other successful diversity members. Like for my program at Chiropractic College, last month we had 4 Latino students graduate as chiropractic doctors. So like that motivates me more to stay in the program. I also see African Americans, my people, also graduating last month too. So like that just motivates me like even more when I see people that look like me, or I see a pool of diversity that's doing the same thing as me. That just gives me, it's like, it just always gives me that feel. Like it never goes empty, if that makes sense. Like it's always like full.
Thank you, Denzel. George, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I would say always growing up, I was probably a weird one with being like how self-motivated I was. So for me growing up, was it hard? No, because I always told myself there was like no other option. And I needed to not only make my family proud, but myself proud. And I know the lifestyle I want to live for my future, and it is not what the people around me are doing. So how could I take this to the next level in a sense? So yeah, I always reminded myself, there's no other option. You gotta do it. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think if you kind of feel not motivated, I think the first step is to know that, that's a perfectly valid emotion to have, especially if you're the first one in your family to do it, especially if you're away from school, because some people still live at home while they go to college. I moved 3 hours away from my family for multiple reasons. But I was quite a distance away from my family. And we're not texting each other every day. They're not like, how are you feeling today? Like, how are your emotions? It's not that my parents love me, but we're into a tight knit group of people growing up. So I think knowing that if you don't feel motivated, first thing that like that's perfectly fine and normal to feel. I think especially if you're doing online school, remote school, with the Zoom school, as we like to call it, it's harder to be motivated to finish school. And I think knowing that you have, and that goes back to finding that peer of students or that group of students who are going to do the same thing, to talk to people who are going through the same things that you are, and kind of just work through that emotion, and just kind of sit in it. I kind of don't dismiss it, because it's perfectly valid. So just working through that emotion, talking it out, knowing that your school probably has counselors, making sure you're using that to your advantage, but also the professional staff, talking to whoever, talking to your professor, talking to the director of the diversity office, talking to someone who's like dean of students, talking to someone like Jess. I'm sure there are plenty of students that come and talk to her. I know I did. I know I talked to my director of diversity probably more than he wished for me to come in and just talk to him. But it was one of the ways that I kept sane, because I was like, I need someone to just talk to. So finding those group of people, finding your mentors, your peers that are going through the same thing, or who at least can understand, is very healthy to do, and that you should do it, because bottling all that in is just, nothing good is going to come from that. So talking to others is the best way to kind of just go through that emotion, go through the runs of everything, and then just knowing that you're going to be okay, and doing your best that you could do. Right now, going through school through a pandemic, I can't imagine going through undergrad during this time. Like, it seems so crazy to me. But just figuring it out, taking one day at a time, I think that's really important for students to know, and just kind of keep like the end game in mind, like knowing your goal, that okay, I will finish this degree, it will not be the end of me, I will finish it, I will finish this class, or just take it semester by semester. I think that'd be a good thing for students to keep in mind.
Okay. Thank you. We have another question. And I appreciate this question, because my first generation students who are part of the ACI program, we were just discussing this topic. So I'm interested to hear you all's thoughts. Was there a clash in values or beliefs as you began to shift from becoming a little bit different than your family? And how did your family react when you started to develop a different point of view? And how did you overcome if there was any tension with your family members? It's a very good question. So anyone want to take a stab at this one?
I can.
Okay.
I can take a stab. This is, I don't want to speak for every African, because we tend to most often like, oh, Africans. But from my culture, there are two things: religion and your professional career. More often than not, and I'm sure it's you can relate to this, is we my family, I was almost given a career to pursue, right? I was given, and I don't want to be all religion and all God and no God here. I was given that to pursue too. And of course, when you grow up in a family where I had to, rely on my mom for everything, I had no choice. Of course, I want to be a good son, but that's what I grew up in. And my mother wanted me to be a doctor, and that's all she ever wanted. And not to say that was good or bad, but that was she. It's almost like your happiness is tied to that one particular thing. And as I grew up and I went to college, the first the word that they use in my family is the bad son move. Was I said, you know what, I'm going to go into environmental sciences. Like, oh boy, like environmental, like climate, like what? I'm like, I care about it. I want to study that. I'm like, what? Like, you want to save the world? I'm like, no, save me first. I'm like, no, mom, I'm going to be able to afford it. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was, religion. Like, I was not even just being a Christian, but I was born Catholic. And I would say, you know what? I went to a Presbyterian school. I just want to, I don't want to be Catholic anymore. I want to be Presbyterian. Like, that's what I want. That's what I prefer. And so, like, those two things are very important and fundamental for my family. So it was extremely hard for us to come into an understanding. But the one thing that, and the conversation was never easy. But the one thing that I always stayed true to was I doing what I was doing because I just wanted to be a recalcitrant child, or I just wanted to be a child that just doesn't want to do what the parents tell them, or was it something that I truly wanted? So I always boil down to, is this what I really want? Is this what makes me truly happy? And if that truly makes me happy, I always have an honest conversation. And it takes time for my family to accept that. And for some things, they'll never accept, but that's okay because they know that I'm doing it for me and I'm doing it to make myself happy. I don't want to live a double life where in front of you, I'll be this individual, but behind you, I'll be that individual. It doesn't serve anyone any good. And of course, it doesn't serve me any good. So, and it's something that as I grow, a lot of the things that, I grew up with in terms of the cultural appreciation that I had for the West or for people or for other individuals, it keeps changing. And if I don't have that different opinion, then maybe I'm not growing. So I actually believe that as long as it's true to my core, growth is important. And my growth and my path would not necessarily be the path that my mom took, that my sister is taking, that my brother is taking. It is my path. And all I can do is have an honest conversation with them and say that, hey, this is just my difference in opinion. And that's how the world works. You got to have that diversity. You're going to respect it for what it is, even if it's a very hard conversation to do. And if you are true to yourself, then you are going to make happier and better decisions.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you. We have another question. George, did you have something to add?
No, I have to head out. I just didn't want to be rude and interrupt anything. It was nice being on here. Is there anything that I should know before I leave or say before I leave?
I don't think so. I think you're good. We appreciate you being here with us today.
Of course. Always here to help. You guys have my contact info, all the students. I'm an open door policy. It was nice seeing you too, Leslie. Hope to help out, see everyone in the future. No problem. Have a great Friday and weekend.
You too. All right. We have another question here. Someone wants to know what is the best way to become more extroverted at school when you feel like there's no group that you can belong to? And how do you know which person is the best choice to be your mentor for a career path? I love the mentor question. I appreciate this question, whoever asked this question. And so, panelists, do you guys have anything to add to that? They want to know how can they get involved if there's not a group for them to belong to? And then how do you pick your mentor?
Yeah, I think one of the first things is how to become more extroverted. I'm not sure. I guess you kind of first have to figure out, like why you want to become more extroverted. I personally am an introverted person. I become extroverted once I find my group of people. So I think perhaps you guys have to figure out, maybe perhaps you feel guilty that you need to like step away every now and then, or, you know, that you want to, you know, maybe it's like really overwhelming once you're in a group of people. So if you're introverted, it's perfectly fine to be introverted. I kind of just want to get that out of the way. But I think don't feel pressured to, you know, first day on campus, I need to find my lifelong friends. That might not happen, and most likely it will not happen. You know, college is 4 years. That seems very long. It's gonna fly by. But knowing that you're gonna be put into new environments kind of every semester, you know, the group of people who you're in classes right now is not going to be the same as you next semester. So you're going to be exposed consistently to new people. Even you know, if you're a freshman, when you're a sophomore, if you perhaps not, if you didn't find anybody, but if you're not friends with anybody who's the same grade as you or above, there's a whole new group of people who just came in. Like they might be younger, but you know, you can help them. You can be a mentor to them, and trying to find the best choice to be your mentor. For me, that's really important and really valuable to me, as Jess said, because my mentor at Augustana, Michael Rogers, he recommended me for the job that I have today. So having that connection really helped. But I think, you know, the best choice, like who should be your mentor, it's the person who you kind of connect to kind of immediately, the person who you feel really comfortable talking to. You know, you feel comfortable talking to them about, you know, your academics, how you're doing. For me, my mentors were some of my professors and Michael, but these were people who, you know, maybe they wish I hadn't, but if their office door was open, I would just walk in. I would just walk in, sit down, and start talking to them, because I was just like, oh, hi, your door's open. How are you doing today? How's your cat? And, you know, I'll just talk to them. And perhaps, you know, they wish that I didn't stop by so often, because if their door was open, it was like, oh, your door's open. Like, it's permission for me to come in. So I think finding those people who you're really comfortable with, I think that's the first step. Like, okay, this person I feel really comfortable talking to. That's the first step. That's the most important part about having a mentor, is having someone you can connect with and someone who you can talk to. It doesn't even necessarily have to be someone who has a certain background. So, you know, it doesn't have to be, if you want to be, you know, a biologist, it doesn't have to be a biology professor who is your mentor. It can be anybody who you feel connection with. And, you know, you guys are at liberal art colleges, so you have to take English courses, math course, you know, you have to take, you're going to be exposed to multiple departments. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be someone with that same background that perhaps you want to pursue in the professional career, because all those people are going to have, they have good things to say, and you know, they have input and they know what they're doing. So just, you know, don't feel pressured, like, you know, if you're going to be, if you're interested in history, you know, nobody in the history department has to be your mentor. It would help, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, if you really connected with someone who was your English professor, then that's perfectly fine for them to be your mentor. So I think that way. And also, you know, upperclassmen are your mentors as well. You know, it doesn't have to be someone who has a professional staff, a title or anything like that. You know, students can mentor each other. And I think that's something. Mentorship is kind of, it's not as scary as perhaps it could be, like overwhelming. And you don't have to be like, will you be my mentor? Like, it's just a relationship that blossoms. And then it kind of just clicked that, you know, it's someone that you look up to, but you don't have to do like a formal ask either. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
Yes. And you can have multiple mentors.
Yeah. And exactly. wanted to add on, like you touched on this, Cindy, is number one, right? Like being an introvert, I think it's awesome. One of the best leaders that I know, Bill Gates, is an introvert, believe it or not. Steve Jobs was an introvert. A lot of the leaders you see these days are introverts. And so in like being an introvert, it's not a bad thing. It's about, you know, can you adapt? And on the point of mentorship, right? One of the things that I want to also like highlight is what mentorship is a two-way street, in my opinion, in the way I look at it. And you, in addition to you like, if you want to take, if you want someone that you just want to take from them, you know, then that's very unidirectional. And the way I look at mentorship, like, what can you give back to that individual, right? You do, because there is something that you can give back. And I think you have to understand what you can provide in that relationship, not necessarily something that is of like immediate like value, like I'm trying to get this person a job or anything that relates to that. But it's your shared values, your shared perspective. You're able to share your perspective and being honest in a relationship. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because throughout our VIP program, and this is the second cohort I just finished today, we had 1,200 students. Each of the students in the VIP program, we paired them with a mentor over the period of 6 weeks. So we'd have over like 700 or 800 mentors that we are working with. And one of the things that I see is when you are open-minded and you say, I don't have to know you directly for you to be my mentor. I don't have to have the same academic background as you guys were saying for you to be my mentor, but do we have shared values? Do we have shared interest? And is it aligned? And can you help me accomplish one objective? You can have multiple objectives that may require multiple mentors for you to achieve them. And you have to be open-minded and look at things a little bit more holistically, broaden your scope of vision and say, hey, if I know this individual, and maybe that mentor is not someone that you're going to have a direct communication with. So that's something to also consider. I can learn from you from afar, and I have done that myself, and it's helped me extremely well. So think about mentor in the broader picture and think about what can I learn from this individual, even if I don't formally have a title of I am a mentor to that individual. So just be open-minded.
Thank you, Emmanuel. All right, I think, are we right on time? I think we're right.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, we're right on time.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody wants to go back or say anything else.
Any final words for our students?
I got to rush to another meetings. I just want to say thank you so much, ACI. Thank you, Jess. You've been an amazing moderator. Thank Denzel, Cindy, Leslie for inviting me here, and for other students. The fact that you're here, that's the testament to your awesomeness. So know that you are awesome. You are here. You're trying to make yourself better. Try to find new opportunities to grow and learn. So thank you for just being a good sport today. And bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say one last thing. That's what Cindy was talking about, and Emmanuel made me think of, is that whether you're looking for a mentor or whether you're looking to make a new friend, the first step is listening. That when you listen deeply to people and you begin to hear them say things that either match up with feelings that you have or reflect ideas that you have or entertain you, that's a way of building a bridge to that person, whether it's somebody you want to have as a mentor or somebody you want to have as a friend. So you don't always have to be the first person to talk. You can be the first person to listen and talk later.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you, Leslie.
Thank you all. And Cindy, do we know if our next speakers are ready to go?
Yeah, they should be. Thank you so much, Denzel.
Thank
I don't know
you.
if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, this was a great panel. We'll do this again. Thanks.
All right, thank you. See you guys. Thank you so much.
Of course. Bye-bye. Okay, so yes, the next people we're gonna have, let me do one thing. They'll be joining us soon. Just let's see, I'll pull up the agenda so we can all see. So the next presenters are gonna be talking about credit. It's gonna be PNC, and I see James is joining us. Perfect. So it's gonna be James and Heather Lynn. So we're gonna be talking about knowing, and Heather Lynn has joined us also. Perfect. And just knowing how credit works and why we can build your confidence as you plan to life during and after college. A little bit about our presenters. Heather Lynn is a financial sales consultant at PNC Bank and has been with PNC for 5 over 8 years of their banking career. She's worked in Wisconsin and Chicago markets for PNC. She enjoys working with diverse company partnerships, helping employees achieve their goals. And in the downtime, she enjoys new foods to try with her family, road trips, and gardening. James is the VP Organizational Financial Wellness over at PNC. He started his career in banking 25 years ago and has been at PNC for more than 9 years with various roles. So he enjoys helping individuals reaching their personal and financial goals and aspirations. And Olwafki and James has the Circle of Excellence winner at PNC and a Marker All-Star in 2018 and 19. And so then we'll talk a little bit more about PNC Bank, but James and Heather Lynn has joined us. Let's see. Hi, James.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good, Cindy, thank you.
Of course. And hi, Heather Lynn.
Good afternoon. How's everybody?
Good.
Fantastic. Should we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, are you guys gonna turn on your cameras, or is it just do you want me to just pull up the presentation?
If you could just pull up the presentation, that would be fantastic.
Okay,
Cindy.
no problem. I can do that. Give me 1 second. Here we go. There you go. It's there. So just let me know when to do the next slides, Heather Lynn.
I will do that. Thanks for navigating through that. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes with all of you. As Cindy mentioned, my name is Heather Lynn. I am the Corporate Workplace Financial Consultant for PNC Bank within our Organizational Financial Wellness Program here in the Chicago area. As we've all experienced changes over the last
boot camps Friday, January 29th, 2021. We'll be thrilled to be out of 2020 by that time. And that one is called The Right Image, The Right Information. And that is organized around how you present yourself to employers, interviewing skills, dressing for success, email etiquette, conforming to corporate culture, and related matters. The financial literacy session will be about budgeting on an entry-level salary. And we're delighted that, as was the case last year for our winter boot camp, the Citibank team of young professionals will be partnering with us on that boot camp. And then the last one for the year is Friday, March 26th. We're very excited about this last boot camp. It's going to be about technology in the workplace and across careers and industries. So it will look at both the technology skills that liberal arts graduates should be bringing into the workplace with them, but also what the career paths are that they can pursue leaving college with their bachelor's degrees. So thank you to all of you for attending. Thank you, Cindy, for being our technology backup and moderator throughout the day. We really appreciated it. And have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. And just so you guys know, the sessions were recorded. So we will be putting out information. You can ask your staff member or whoever recommended you for the registration that you'll be in contact to see the recordings if you need them. And also there'll be a survey coming your way. So make sure to fill that out. And then other than that, thank you so much and have a great day.